Chapter 31, How dare you think of her? How many lives do you have? Any man would be moved by seeing this scene. This was that unique temperament that Lin sure had. She will never succumb to fate. Brother Bin, if you like that girl, go after her. Chen Bin's little brother, in fact, to shout Shusheng, such a student boy worker, not convinced, so want to glow to him to make things. But Chen Bin is a change of face, dead staring at this little brother. A kick in his waist kicked him down. Roll back, you don't have to come to my place from now on. Chen Bin stared expressionlessly at this guy and cursed out, this kind of good woman is not something I am qualified to touch. Dare to think about her? How many lives do you have? After saying this, Chen Bin didn't look at him again and led the others towards Lin Shi to chase after him. The little brother who was kicked to the ground had a look of unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do. In the end, he could only climb up and slink away. In the bottom of his heart, he was still unconvinced, thinking that Xiao Chushang, that student boy, was not capable of much, and that Chen Bin and the others would not benefit at all from following a student boy. Lin Shi, who was dragging the barbecue cart with difficulty, suddenly felt a lightness behind him, and turned his head in confusion. He saw Chen Bin with a few juniors together to help him push the cart. Lin Shi nodded at Chen Bin. Thank you. It should be. With the help of Chen Bin and the others, Lin Shi's journey was quite easy. When they arrived at the place where the stall was set up, Chen Bin and the others did not go over, but watched from afar. Before Xiao Chushang left, he had already told Chen Bin about the general situation, and how to deal with the specifics, so that Chen Bin could act as he saw fit. Lin Shi out of the stall time is still quite early, but there are already several piers have already set up. Make money, very normal. This time, in fact, there is not much to eat, so the stall is well supported, not many people come over. Lin Shi began to prepare the evening to sell things, just when he dealt with the ingredients, but also really someone to find trouble. Not Xiao Chusheng expected, their business is too good, that will certainly steal the interests of peers. If you are just like others, take a few bites of food from other people's mouths. Good, then no one will say anything. But what is Xiao Chusheng doing? That's Jedi business. Pure mutton, secret sprinkles, he makes all the money and leaves the other families with no money. Because he can't beat them in flavor, not to mention you can't fake duck meat anymore. So play the hammer? Pure lamb? What money is there in pure lamb? This thing is kind of stall some industry rules. Real lamb? That's definitely not profitable. Even Xiao Chusheng, the smaller the volume, the less money. He's just using the name to draw a wave of traffic, and making that profit back from the vegetables and those things on top. And he ran to the pier today to get oysters, is also for this purpose. This thing is the big head of profit. It's just a business that's not for the faint of heart. So this wave of operation is considered to have caused group anger. Xiao Chusheng's consideration is correct. The several peers a look of the teacher to inquire about the frame surrounded over. The eyes are very bad. Little girl, you are not generous. Your man? Let your man out. The other party did not intend to make a big deal out of it right from the start. After all, Lin Shi is just a woman, and at times like this, it is still necessary to let the man step in. Lin Shi lifted her head expressionlessly. He is not here, what is your business? Of course she knew what these people were up to, but still deliberately played dumb. The few peers who were looking for a fight looked at each other with more than a little bit of surprise in their eyes, because the female child in front of her actually wasn't afraid at all when facing such a group of big men like them. At once, their rhythm was disrupted. They had wanted to intimidate Xiao Chusheng and Lin Shi so that they would not engage in those table-turning operations. Now this situation, I'm afraid it's useless if they don't teach them a lesson. At that moment, the leader of the fat man with a somewhat fierce face gave a wink to a few others, and a few people were ready to take action. Do not intend to go too far, smash something on the line. So a few people copied up to bring the guy, but did not wait for these sticks down. They felt someone poke their shoulders. Who is it? Something's up? A few people turned their heads, and they were confronted with a bunch of mental boys with nuclear goodness in their smiles, a few of whom were still bare-chested and covered in pimples. Compared to these two biters who fought all day, these middle-aged businessmen were not good enough. What's the matter with you guys? The leading fat man's eyelids jumped wildly, already realizing that something was wrong. Chen Bin had a cigarette in his mouth and smiled at Lin Shi. Boss lady, don't worry, leave it to me. Lin Shi nodded, not panicking in the slightest. Even if there is no Chen Bin, she is ready to fight with these guys, ruthless. She does not think she will lose. Chen Bin, several people grabbed these guys by the collar and dragged them into the alley not far away, to give these guys a lesson, certainly not in public. Into the alley, Chen Bin immediately did not in front of Lin Shi that a low voice, social mixing boss face show undoubtedly. This will be the leader of the fat man by a few juniors pressed, completely unable to break free. Shenbin slapped the leading fat man's face. You quite fat dare to find my boss's wife's trouble? No, we really do not. The fat man will be scared silly, lips are shivering. No? Not looking for trouble. You guys with this many guys want to do what? Shenbin knowingly asked. A few stall bosses scared on the spot, paralyzed, all kinds of kneeling and begging for forgiveness. We do not dare, we are really just obsessed, are his idea. A few people directly dumped the pot in the head of the leader of the fat man. In fact, the initiator of the idea of giving Xiao Chusheng some lessons is really him. Shenbin sneered twice. My boss said, doing business, some people earn, some people lose, it is very normal, you have the ability to use your ability to earn this money, do not want to engage in these moths, understand? A few bosses' head nodded with a rattledrum like, understand. Shenbin nodded, understand on good, roll it, remember, there is a next time, what consequences do not need me to say it. No need. A few bosses were like amnesty, fleeing faster than a rabbit. Just as Shenbin and the others were teaching these bosses a lesson, Lin Shi's side had already ushered in today's business. Because there weren't even any bosses at the stalls of those peers, the natural flow of customers had all come to Lin Shi's place. Not to mention that Lin Shi was also a big beauty, standing there, it was a beautiful sight. Imagine a bare-chested middle-aged man and a beautiful young lady whose knitted brows and smile are all seductive. Where do you want to go? Why don't you see the boss? How come there is only you, the boss's wife, today? Lin Shi froze, did not expect this as still yesterday's repeat customers. He's at school, he'll be here in a while, my grill is not as good as his, you'll have to bear with me. Lin Shi smiled gently. That's fine, your chili noodles are fragrant, I'm good at this, but you said school? You're still in school and you're doing business? The oldest brother was puzzled. Lin Shi blinked, yes, he came in the afternoon. Broken voice? Chapter 32. She is actually a natural nerd, right? Bastard walked together to eat. Later a few of us are going to go to the internet cafe, are you going? Su Hai over to invite Xiao Chusheng, as the saying goes, did not skip class to go to the internet cafe. Childhood that are incomplete. But now Xiao Chusheng has passed this period, after all, before the rebirth of Xiao Chusheng actually long lost interest in the game, this is called electronic impotence. I still have something to do, so I will not go. Xiao Chusheng politely refused, was ready to withdraw. Su Hai scratched his head, in fact, he couldn't say why, it felt as if Xiao Chusheng had become a little different from before. But just as Xiao Chusheng went out of the classroom, someone blocked in front of him. I have something to say to you. Zheng Jiayi's eyes flashed. Xiao Chusheng was silent, he really did not want to get involved with Zheng Jiayi again. Putting it down, Zheng Jiayi was all sorts of coming up, which made his head spin. In the end, Xiao Chusheng just looked deeply at Zheng Jiayi, turned his head and left without saying a word to her. The attitude of rejection was clear, I have nothing to say to you. This scene was naturally witnessed by the students coming in and out. Originally there were quite a few people who thought that Xiao Chusheng was just trying to catch Zheng Jiayi. But now no one thinks that way. Not to mention the fact that there was a Qi University schoolgirl who was having a scandal with this brute. Although Xiao Chusheng and that idiot beauty were making a lot of noise, there were still a lot of people who actually refused to believe that the Qi big school flower was really getting together with Xiao Chusheng. Xiao Chusheng did not hesitate and ran all the way to the outside of the school. You are still really fast. Seeing the idiot beauty waiting for him right at the noon place, Xiao Chusheng was all a bit surprised. At the same time, he was suspicious in his heart, this guy would not run out as soon as he got out of class, right? Conscience a little uneasy how to do. The two did not hesitate, all the way to the park where the stalls, far from seeing their own stalls full of people, but also a long line. On the other hand, the other families are relatively cold, almost no few guests. And those few also did not dare to yell, after all, only in the afternoon was Chen Bin and others warned. Although Chen Bin did not warn them that they could not do business normally, but this has just escaped back, the fear has not passed. Lin Shi was grilling all kinds of skewers with nimble hands and feet. Xiao Chusheng didn't go over directly, but turned his head to where Chen Bin and the others were who were squatting not far away to feed the mosquitoes. Xiao Chusheng sent Chen Bin a huazi. Chen Bin took it and took the lighter and wanted to light it for Xiao Chusheng as well. No need, I quit. Xiao Chusheng smiled. Chen Bin was stunned, put his hand back. Tell me, what happened in the afternoon? So Chen Bin to the afternoon gang to find trouble to Xiao Chusheng said. Xiao Chusheng listened to the end of the nod, this will do, doing business, we all make money according to their ability, but you cannot play outside those rules, remember, illegal things we do not do. Chen Bin nodded, no. Xiao Chusheng light him. In the future our country will certainly become more and more standardized. This society is also running to peace and stability and go. Of course, I'm not saying that you people have no use at all, just like our country's nuclear weapons, I cannot use, but cannot be no, understand? That's the bottom line. I've been taught. After understanding the situation, Xiao Chusheng went to find Lin Shi and watched from the side for a while. As a result, he found that Lin Shi's technique is now comparable to his, but he is still a little short of mastering the fire. You came? Lin Shi's eyes lit up a bit when she saw Xiao Chusheng. Well, Xiao Chusheng didn't immediately take over the business, but wrote a new signboard himself. Men's gas station, women's beauty salon, delicious and aphrodisiac, roasted oysters with garlic for $2 apiece. The sign said, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a good deal on this. Lin Shi was dumbfounded. How could she not expect that Xiao Chusheng would actually write this stuff? Does anyone really eat it? She wasn't too sure anymore. Xiao Chusheng smiled mysteriously, you will see. Once the signboard was hung up, almost all of the people in line were asking if what was written on the signboard was true. Of course it is true, do not believe you can check the internet. Xiao Chusheng did not panic at all. Although Baidu really will die, but does not prevent in this 7 years its share in the country is still dominant level. Functional machines are also able to go to Baidu, so some people will be convinced to really go to check. Crap, actually is true. At that moment, many people have an idea, but many people are still hesitant. Because $2 is really a little expensive, so a little big one. 7 years of people spending money is not like the latter days so free, this is normal. Xiao Chusheng's side is not in a hurry, anyway, sooner or later sold out. He roasted himself first, on some garlic, mixed some sauce, and then a little millet spicy. This thing is considered to be the easiest to bake, but also very fast, Lin Shi can easily learn. The guests' mouths were watering as they smelled the fragrance brought by the evening breeze. A certain stupid beauty came over when she smelled the flavor and stood there looking blearily at the oyster shells that Xiao Chusheng had placed on the grill. This pathetic look made Xiao Chusheng cry and laugh. How did it make it seem like I don't give her food? Come on, have a taste. Xiao Chusheng gave a few of the roasted ones to Lin Shi and Shi Sanswang, the idiot beauty. The two of them tasted one, and because it was the first time they ate it, it burned them to the point of hissing and hissing. How was it? Xiao Chusheng was satisfied with the reaction of the two because he was also like this when he first ate it. It was very fragrant. Lin Shi gave a thumbs up, it's just a bit expensive, I don't know if it can be sold out. I don't know, but it should be possible. Xiao Chusheng didn't have a bottom in his heart. The two gazes fell on the idiot beauty and found that this guy had already eaten both of the ones Xiao Chusheng had given her, and was again staring at him with that pitiful little expression. With a abandoned puppy-like. TSK Xiao Chusheng couldn't help but hold his forehead. I'm afraid that the goods I got in here aren't even enough for you to eat. This is naturally a joke. This thing doc take half-shell frozen goods cost low pitiful, late cedar again can eat, but also eat dozens of. So Sek Xiao Chusheng let her open up to eat, and this guy is really living up to his expectations, a mouthful of one, eat that is called a fragrant. This guy is really difficult to say. Xiao Chusheng did not know what to say. Lin Shi against the chin thought, so, cedar she is actually a natural nerd, right? Can't say dumb. It seems like it, right? But because this stupid beauty ate too much and dazzled one after another. Such a beautiful girl, not to mention eye candy, just this eating look makes people's appetite rise when they look at it. So this guy attracted a lot of young guys around the side eye, directly into a living advertising signboard, see her eat so fragrant, many people want to come over to buy a few taste. Plus aphrodisiac beauty of these ingredients added, every day have to pay the ration of middle-aged people did not let go. Lin Shi was dumbfounded, there is this kind of operation? Sold out. Chapter 33 Where is the schoolgirl? That's not there? From Chisugo this live advertisement to go out, this grill has not rested, it did not take long to sell out a box of oysters. Lin Shi's eyes were glowing with wealth, but at the same time she was worried. Say, although this is a very good seller, and the profit is especially high, but this is very easy to be robbed of business, right? This was what Lin Shi was worried about. Indeed, unlike barbecue sprinkles, that stuff was considered a secret recipe. Unless it took quite a long time to study the ratios, it wasn't that easy to be copied. Roasted oysters had almost no technical content, even the control of the fire was so simple that it exploded, and the seasonings and other things were all very tasty when they were put in randomly. almost belongs to the category of night market with a hand on the line. But what? Xiao Chushing, this beast, will not think of this point? He smiled badly at Linshur. You have a good point, but have you ever thought of a problem? $2 a piece, we are quite profitable, but what about others? Linshur was stunned and asked suspiciously, what do you mean? You go to any place that sells aquatic products, $2 you can buy an oyster even if you bully. Xiao Chushang said with conviction. Ha! Linshur stupid, because she really do not know the price of this thing. This is not to blame Linshur, because this time in 2007 oysters have not been hot to the extent that the whole country people eat wildly. The places that sell aquatic products are usually live oysters, and the individual price of that thing is never less than $4 a piece around Shanghai. Of course, that is with the shell of the live oysters. Like Xiao Chushang, this is imported half-shell frozen oysters, to be much cheaper. But this thing, if you do not buy a large volume, that buy down the individual cost will not be particularly low, and even higher than $2. Of course, if there is someone in the supplier, can be pressed to a piece of 5 apiece. But $1.50? Counting the cost of labor, seasoning, and charcoal? How much profit is there? And Xiao Chushing's source itself is about equal to the white whore. The natural take price can be low to almost can be ignored. The profit in this can be big. Of course, this thing cannot be a long-term business. But Xiao Chushing itself did not intend to rely on this, but just want to get a start-up capital. Besides, the business of the barbecue stand can at most ride to the October National Day, and then after that there is basically nothing to earn. After the fall, this kind of stall can still earn $1,000 a night is estimated to be very difficult, so Xiao Chushing to have another plan. No wonder you are so emboldened. After listening to some of Xiao Chushing's plans, Linshur came to a sudden realization and was reassured. At the same time, she was secretly calculating in her mind how much they could earn by the National Day. Although there will be various situations, such as rainy days or sometimes less people come, but a month of more than 100,000 net profit is still no pressure. 100,000 Linshur, think about this number, feels scary. In 2007, the monthly income of 100,000 is already considered very scary. The key to this is only a small business, and the most frightening were Xiao Chushing said to do a big job. Linshur do not dare to imagine this guy said to do a big ticket to how big. Xiao Chushing has not yet told Linshur his plan. After all, the head has not opened it. Think of those who would appear to be too large a cake is easy to dispel her self-confidence. But there is no doubt that the future era belongs to the internet. But even so, the internet, even how prosperous, that is also built on industry. Industry is the lifeblood of a country or even the world, so Xiao Chushang must lay a solid foundation before doing the internet. And this base industry must be a steady stream of stable profit sources. Clothing, food, housing, transportation, eating, drinking and playing, old age, sickness and death. Xiao Chushang laughed softly. These 12 words can summarize a person's life. Linshur stared at Xiao Chushang with complicated eyes. At this moment she suddenly felt that the boy in front of her was a bit scary. Xiao Chushang did not explain too much, just said, people eat for days, any industry in the world may be impacted by the internet, but only catering is not possible. Do you know why? Is it because you have to actually personally eat to the stomach? Linshur immediately realized the problem. Xiao Chushang nodded with a light hum. In fact, even if the takeaway industry is no longer developed, there are some things you still have to eat into your stomach at that time, eating that flavor, that feeling at that time. So the internet may hit some snacks business, but restaurants, milk tea, these will never be hit. Because you cannot beat, you can join well. So you are making money now, you want to open a store? Linshur quickly guessed Xiao Chushing's next intention. Right. The two of them roasted oysters while chatting about their future plans. Because the oysters had made a name for themselves in this area tonight, many diners had come here. Crucially, there were also quite a few repeat customers from those of yesterday, and word of mouth had already gotten out. Speaking of which, it seems that your summer vacation is a bit earlier, right? Xiao Chushang suddenly remembered. Yes, if no accident, next week we'll be able to go home. Linshur spoke of the word home. The bottom of the eyes of the loss is heartbreaking. Come directly to Hangzhou for the summer vacation, rent a house here. Xiao Chushing domineeringly made a decision for Linshur. When the second half of the school year begins, the account will also be moved to the school collective. Linshur's eyes had a light in them. She hadn't thought about this before. Boss, 10 roasted oysters, $2 a piece, right? Xiao Chushing subconsciously responded, yes, $2 a. But the words out, Xiao Chushing eyebrows. Xiao Chushing eyebrows slightly knit. How this guest's voice so familiar? He looked up and met Su-hai's eyes. The air seemed to freeze in an instant. Su-hai was also at this moment, his brain had stopped thinking, and his head was full of question marks. Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? I don't know how much time passed before this guy, crap, beast. He finally reacted, this is what you mean by something? Why did you run this place to set up a stall? Xiao Chusheng rubbed his temples, he should have thought of it. The most of this neighborhood is the black internet cafe, and the gang of them run the internet cafe to play the game if they are sure to eat the whole thing at night. And with his barbecue stall being so hot, there was a high probability that he would be able to recruit this group of people from the school. See as Xiao Chusheng, Su-hai completely lost the constraints, come over to Tisk 2 sound, do not say animal you this business can ah. Xiao Chusheng did not say too much, but asked him, how did you come over? We heard that this side of a barbecue stall flavor is very good, the boss lady is also a thief beautiful, just hungry, just by the way over to CC, but which? Ever thought how is you ah? Su-hai are speechless, but soon realized what, his eyes fell on Xiao Chusheng beside Linshur, that eyeballs can no longer move. Ha! Bastard ah, you kid moved away from love? Where's the schoolgirl? Isn't she there? I'm not going to be able to get a good look at her. The 34th chapter of the Direct Foot on Two Boats ah. Su-hai looked at the sight of the Bam Bam Show barbecue Chi-sanchuan people are numb, how he did not expect Xiao Chusheng is not a love affair at all. This guy is directly stepping on two boats ah. Xiao Chusheng of course knew what his brother was thinking, but he wasn't going to deny it. After all, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it, it was supposed to be the truth. Even though his feelings towards the idiot beauty were a bit complicated, it could ultimately be considered an adulterous relationship. Furthermore, putting this guy away Xiao Chusheng's damn dignity wouldn't allow it. A life or to her pit lost, this is not from her body to take something back, the heart of that off cannot pass. Su-hai lowered his voice gossip, beast ah, quickly say, you and this boss lady how ah? How do you give people to run to help? I'm not sure if I can do it, but I'm sure I can. Xiao Chusheng froze for a while, and only then figured out what this guy Su-hai meant in the end. This guy thought that he was chasing Linshur in order to come here to offer his hospitality to others for nothing? Is there a possibility that I am the boss? Xiao Chusheng coughed dryly. What? Su-hai a face of disbelief expression, you do not even go to the internet cafe, ran to do this? Idle? Still student Su-hai has not experienced the social beatings, naturally not realize what will face in the future from the ivory tower out. Of course, this time in 2007, the mainstream melody of society is still struggling for the future. Unlike later generations, we directly lost the dream, the whole society and the money, gold worship has become the main theme of society. Xiao Chusheng did not explain too much, after all, he is a young body loaded with a rotten soul. Different ages and different stages look at the same thing is not the same feeling. So what exactly is your relationship with that big beauty? Su-hai didn't dare to breathe when facing Linshur. The main thing is that Linshur looks older than him, plus so beautiful. This kid belongs to the kind of see a woman unconsciously psychological low head of the shy character, otherwise would not have no opinion after marriage, instigated by his wife misappropriation of public funds. Xiao Chusheng briefly gave two people introduced to each other, Su-hai, my brother, Linshur, I. He suddenly wanted to have a little fun, the corner of his mouth hooked, deliberately said, I adopted female college students. I'm not sure if you're a good person, but I'm a good person. Su-hai was even more confused, a face of disbelief. And Linshur is even more interesting, this guy deliberately followed Xiao Chusheng's words, hello, I am his adopted female college student, please teach me more ha. Linshur's words directly caused Su-hai to be skeptical, looking at Xiao Chusheng's eyes full of admiration. You guys aren't making fun of me, right? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was impossible. However, looking at the two of them with that serious look, he inwardly muttered. The reason why Linshur and Xiao Chusheng were serious was because instead of being a joke, this joke could be said to be the truth, half true and half false, right? Xiao Chusheng teased him enough, then said, see, I said the truth and you do not believe, hurry up to take your things to roll it. Su-hai heatedly said, we are brothers, there is no discount? Brothers? That shall not add money? Xiao Chusheng more justified, brother's business, you have to take care of a little more? What? Su-hai people are numb, this guy is really a treacherous face. In the end, he still honestly give money away, after all, buy things is not the light of his. With him in the internet cafe with a lot of foreign classes, as well as a few foreign schools, not familiar, that certainly cannot let Xiao Chusheng suffer. Send away Su-hai, Linshur curiously asked, Why don't you call your brother to help you? Xiao Chusheng opened his mouth meaningfully. Playing well does not mean that you can start a business together. When it comes to money, many people will change their hearts. Lin Shi thoughtfully stared at Xiao Chusheng and asked in a low voice, "So you trust me that much?" The secret of his reborn person has long since ceased to be a secret here in Lin Shi, but just didn't point it out. Xiao Chusheng himself was pretending to be confused. "Yeah, turning you into my shape, of course I trust you." Lin Shi did not expect Xiao Chusheng suddenly tiger and wolf words, pretty face red, subconsciously in his arm ruthlessly shot a hand, "To die you." The result was too much force, almost even the grill are lifted. "Auntie, you take it easy. It's not you who are talking nonsense." At this time, Lin Shi is still a yellow flower girl. Where has she been molested like this? Her face was so hot that she could almost fry an egg. But the more she did, the more Xiao Chusheng wanted to bully her. This dog smiled badly. "What, you think I'm joking, ah? I tell you, if it is not too tired to do this business these days, do you think you can still be good? Otherwise, what do you think the name of the bag of female college student?" Lin Shi turned her face away, no longer daring to look at Xiao Chusheng's face, but her heart actually inexplicably had some expectations. There is no doubt that in just 2 days, she has completely let go of Xiao Chusheng's heart. Even she herself was a little confused. How did she fall so quickly? Obviously, she had just met this guy, but she had a vague feeling as if they had known each other for many years. Too mysterious. Xiao Chusheng smiled faintly, his heart blossoming with joy. The female college student version of Lin Shi is really interesting. The previous life imperial sister version of Lin Shi is simply two kinds of feelings. Now she is more energetic, and then there is more of a spirituality? Perhaps it was because she hadn't lost hope in life now. Thinking of this, Xiao Chusheng was even more grateful that he had come back in such a timely manner. "Idiot, come here." Xiao Chusheng rushed towards Chi Sanswang, the idiot beauty, and called out. "You called me?" The idiot beauty had no self-awareness of the fact that she was an idiot. She even begged for confirmation. "Go to buy us 2 dinners, look at the noodles, a pouring rice, a whatever, to carry hunger. It's hard to stand here all night without eating something high-calorie." Wow. The stupid beauty was obedient, got up from the small table, patted the dust on her butt and was ready to go. Lin Shi hurriedly jogged to follow. "I will go with her, she is alone so late, it is not safe." Chen Bin and others who were guarding not far away also followed when they saw this, just to protect the two people. Xiao Chusheng watched the two go away, couldn't help but laugh lightly and spit. "What's not safe?" Shy is shy, but also embarrassed to admit. Because the several peers today did not dare to yell, so there are a lot of traffic have run to the side of Xiao Chusheng. So just more than 10 o'clock, he prepared today's ingredients are almost at the bottom. Oysters is even more exaggerated, a touch, good guy, only 3 left. This almost have to close the stall. Xiao Chusheng said helplessly. Lin Shi this time is completely convinced. Today is not earned very exaggerated? Well, unfortunately tomorrow will not have today's income. Line, go to the bin, son of the gang called over it. Xiao Chusheng intends to give Chen Bin those people a little favor. Chapter 35. This dog is right. Boss, what arrangements do you have? Chen Bin smilingly brought people over. Waiting to take these, you will take them to the brothers to share. Finished. Xiao Chusheng stalls on the rest of those grilled materials, a brain all on the grill. Comparison of miscellaneous, and there is not much. This will also have passed the peak of traffic. Xiao Chusheng felt that there was no need to spend time here, it would be better to go home earlier. Just a little kebabs, not much good, but can be close to the relationship. Recently, your boss's wife is relying on you to protect her. Xiao Chusheng brushed the dipping water while chatting with a few people. A few people agreed repeatedly. They had smelled the aroma from the time the stall was set up, and had been craving for it for half a day. Waiting for them to finish eating, Xiao Chusheng only then closed the stall ready to go back. Chen Bin and other people rushed up. You are the boss, this kind of work we will be good. A group of spirit boy can be said to want to progress. A few words are almost written on the face. Let Xiao Chusheng cried and laughed. He didn't refuse, and talked to Lin Shi at the back about his next plans. Tomorrow morning I have to catch the first train, I have a class at 9 o'clock. There was quite a hint of reluctance between her tone. Xiao Chusheng nodded. I'll send you then. Ah. Imperial sister Lin Shi was surprised for a moment, but the light in her eyes was hard to hide, but her mouth was saying, no need? It's fine. Xiao Chusheng overbearingly decided, then the words turned, go back to class, your home side? Lin Shi said in a firm tone, I'm not going back. Well, that will be fine, but if there is trouble. Xiao Chusheng scratched his head. It is still really difficult to get. We all do not have a cell phone. We have to get a cell phone. Xiao Chusheng did not think of the first time to buy a cell phone, because his current business volume is still very small, coupled with the fact that this year is still a feature phone. The feature phone is really not much use. Cell phone? No, so expensive. Lin Shi quickly waved her hand. However, Xiao Chusheng did not feel anything. A cell phone is just a phone. Anyway, just make a call. The cheapest can also be used. Anyway, Xiao Chusheng's goal is to catch up with the wind of the mobile internet, so now this stage of how will be how to come. Cell phone I have. Stupid Beauty's voice from behind the ghost came. Xiao Chusheng and Lin Shi were both subconsciously stunned by her voice, but Xiao Chusheng quickly laughed. I know you have one, but we don't, so for the sake of communication, we'll take the time to go buy a cell phone tomorrow. However, the idiot Beauty's head shook like a rattledrum and corrected. Cell phones I have many. The two froze for a few seconds and quickly reacted. This guy is just too naturally dull, causing both of them to forget that this idiot is actually a little rich woman to come. Just Xiao Chusheng raised his eyebrows. You have a lot? I don't need it? Well. A few people went back to the idiot Beauty home. It was this guy saw an extremely exaggerated scene. Good guy, a drawer of cell phones. Xiao Chusheng are stunned. What Nokia, Sony Ericsson, a whole lot. These are good? Xiao Chusheng was curious. Some have bad batteries, but most of them work. Inside most look like menus. Xiao Chusheng asked, these are your father's? Well, he used to change one in a few months. Xiao Chusheng is not surprised, like the new and hate the old is human nature, not to mention a rich tycoon. If this person is not fond of the old, Sugo's mother would not have been abandoned, or even killed by a mistress. Not only the cell phone, even the person, the house is the same. San's scum father left her here and then started a new family outside with Xiao San. Even Xiao Chusheng was thinking that maybe it wasn't just little 3? There was also little 4, little 5, and even little 6? From the inside, he picked 2 that should not be broken, and found the charger and tried, it works, then these 2. This time the business office is closed, and Lin Shi has to catch the earliest train in the morning, so it's impossible to get a cell phone card. In this way, you get off the train tomorrow, in Shanghai site to do a cell phone card. Xiao Chusheng taught her, then you use that card to send a text message to this idiot, and she will tell me the number, so if you are in trouble, call her. Xiao Chusheng must not have time to go out and get a card until noon, so for the time being, he could only rely on the idiot Beauty to be a messenger in the middle. Good. Lin Shi smiled and didn't refuse. Because she knew how extreme the adoptive parents' family was, maybe Fang Sudong went back that day and looked for them to tell them off. And it is estimated that they directly looked for the school, only that he was in Hangzhou for the past 2 days to avoid it. Now Fang Mingwei family has no financial resources. Fang Mingwei and Chen Shui Extreme Point may be every day in the school squatting her. And Xiao Chusheng also dealt with Lin Shi's adoptive parents' family in his previous life, that is, he knew how shameless they were, which is why he urged Lin Shi to take a good precaution. Alright, that's it, let's first see how much we earned today. Xiao Chusheng hemmed and hawed, and poured the money sold today on the table in a brain. The idiot Beauty is her own person, there is absolutely no need to avoid it. Not to mention that this guy was originally a rich woman, maybe she is even richer. Counting over one by one, the expression on Lin Shi's face became more and more wonderful. It was exaggerated because they had only counted less than half of it, and this was 3,000? Wasn't this money a little too easy to earn? Lin Shi had a look of disbelief on her face. When everyone's average monthly salary wasn't even 3,000, they had already this one day on. No, it was even more exaggerated than that, this was one night. Xiao Chusheng, on the other hand, acted unusually calm and laughed lightly twice, my sprinkles, and the oysters, but with either one of them, any one of the stalls can sell up to 2,000 a night. Xiao Chusheng tried to analyze the situation here. You see, tonight is the first day, itself many people are the name to eat afresh, plus a few other counterparts of the business have been divided by us, so their income into our pockets. Oh, it won't be so much in the future. After listening to Lin Shi a little lost, she was still thinking that if every day there is so much would be so good. In fact, there is another reason. Xiao Chusheng suddenly opened his mouth, he looked at the idiot Beauty who was secretly observing from the side with her face in her hands, and then looked at Lin Shi, then smiled. If there were no you guys, this income would probably be cut in half. Why? Sugo, the idiot, cocked his little head in disbelief. Because you guys are the mascots, many people come for the beauties, you are the living signboards. Xiao Chusheng cackled and narrowed his eyes. Lin Shi and Sanso were both a little embarrassed by the compliment, but they both knew that this dog Xiao Chusheng was right. People are all creatures that look at their faces. Chapter 36. All of them, and even two at a time. 7,351. Lin Shi's breath caught in her throat. She didn't dare to imagine this number. At this rate, a month down the net profit can at least reach 150,000. Xiao Chusheng nodded, his mind already calculating how to spend this money. Money generates money is the hard truth. Originally, he thought that it would take 2 months before he could proceed with his next plan, but he did not expect that the night market barbecue stall business could actually be so good, allowing this plan to be advanced. On the way home, how about getting another night market clothes stall? Xiao Chusheng pondered. But soon he shook his head again. Dressing is different from catering. That thing is influenced too much by the customer's subjective aesthetics. Although there are but earn too little, basically depends on luck. Seeing Xiao Chusheng in distress, Lin Shi suddenly said, "How about getting a breakfast stand? That is a sure thing, and you can make a lot of money in a day, right?" Xiao Chusheng was stunned. "Why do you think of a breakfast stand? Isn't this money enough at night?" "I just see a lot of customers at the breakfast stand," Lin Shi beeped. Xiao Chusheng shook his head. "That cannot, time is too tight. You go to school, I'll be fine, I can do it alone." Lin Shi was very insistent. "No need, it's night and morning, how many hours of sleep do you plan to get in a day?" Xiao Chusheng's tone unconsciously aggravated a few points. Lin Shi's temperament immediately weakened, and her voice was still a little aggrieved. "I just think you are very short of money, so I want to earn some money as soon as possible." Xiao Chusheng's heart warmed and he couldn't help but hug Lin Shi to death. In the dark alley, Lin Shi's body froze, not daring to move a bit. Although she had actually accepted Xiao Chusheng, she was inexperienced after all, so she was a bit flustered. Xiao Chusheng could not wait to rub this guy's whole person into his body, but unfortunately, the current him is still in the age of growing his body, and actually looks a little bit smaller than Lin Shi. Well, into his arms toward Lin Shi, the youthful version of Lin Shi's cleanser really did not have the immersion of the mature imperial sister version. "Little bad guy, you let go of me," Lin Shi pouted and wanted to push Xiao Chusheng away. But Xiao Chusheng and the dog thing is how to refuse to let go, leading Lin Shi and shy and angry, mouth scolded, "Let go, small rascal, you pinch pain me." Only then did Xiao Chusheng pull back with a bad smile and separate from her, deliberately saying, "Actually I want to go down and bite." "Ah." Lin Shi was furious, chased Xiao Chusheng and ran out. "Stop, you still bite? I'll bite you to death first." Playing around, the two had already arrived at the neighborhood where Xiao Chusheng lived. The dog made a silent movement. The two tiptoed into the cell building. "Look upstairs, there seems to be no light, should not be back. Xiao Chusheng's parents will come home at night at irregular intervals, but it is because of the irregularity that they need to be careful." "Then what should I do if there is someone at your house?" Lin Shi asked, the doubt in her heart. Xiao Chusheng glanced at her. "Then you can only go to a regular hotel and open a room, or..." Wanted to say something, because Xiao Chusheng looked like he had thought of something. He had a complicated expression and fell into thought. It is not impossible to go to that idiot's home. How really forgot about this. Sugi's home? But his parents. Lin Shi was also realizing that Sugi's parents didn't care about her at all, and she lived alone in such a big house. Xiao Chusheng also really seriously in thinking about this problem. "Originally I thought that you temporarily rent a house outside, but if you live in her place benefits more. Not to say save a rent, idle can also prepare the ingredients what? Just." Xiao Chusheng was a little hesitant, because he always felt that he was a little bit of a slag. Is he counted as stepping on 2 boats with his feet? Looking into his heart, Xiao Chusheng quickly came up with an answer. "Of course it counts." At first, he held more of a revenge mentality towards that idiot Shi Sanzuan. After all, he basically owed his life to her. But this is not nowadays she should carry the pot, although it does not prevent Xiao Chusheng hard to her back it. But after knowing the encounter of the idiot beauty, Xiao Chusheng's state of mind towards her has undergone a transformation. And the change in his state of mind towards her was the key to the existence of some sort of connection between Xiao Chusheng and Shi Sanzho. Lin Shi had actually noticed this point, but she hadn't pointed it out. Now Xiao Chusheng was letting these two women who were ambiguous with him live together? It always felt a bit off. Shi Sanchuan is naturally dull, emotional things probably she has little self-awareness, but the more so, Xiao Chusheng inner guilt is stronger. During Lin Shi's bath, Xiao Chusheng lay on the sofa and thought about it. In the end, reason overcame emotion, although he felt that he should control the relationship between these two people. But now cannot care so much. Get money is now the first priority. Xiao Chusheng made up his mind that making money is the most important thing. The experience of the previous life let Xiao Chusheng profoundly realize that cannot be in the need to engage in money at the age of thinking about feelings, otherwise everything is a castle in the air. And he is actually a little bit of escape. Even, this dog has actually been secretly calculating in his heart that the current him is not strong enough, so no matter if it's Lin Shi or that idiot, he can't protect it. A woman like Lin Shi was the most unlucky, a beautiful and intelligent woman, but born in a bad family. If she meets a good man, she can change her life. In her previous life, she was lucky to meet Xiao Chusheng. But if her fate is bad, her life will be full of tragedies. Similar to this is the idiot beauty, her end is very miserable, jumped off the rooftop. Well, also screwed him by deleting the file and reopening it. Both of them are beautiful to dangerous women, two together that is even more so. Xiao Chusheng must be strong enough to be able to protect them, but also qualified to have them. The man's bones that a little philandering in the sneak, Xiao Chusheng this dog in search of thought. If I am rich enough, why can't I have them all? I not only want them all, I also want two at a time. Just thinking about it was exciting. Just as Xiao Chusheng was thinking about it, Lin Shi poked her head out of the bathroom with a sneaky look. You're smiling so disgustingly, what are you thinking about? Lin Shi asked suspiciously. She actually said this on purpose, wanting to use this to hide her nervousness. After all, being alone in a room with just a towel on her, she was extremely insecure. The intimate underwear and panties were all for her to wash, after all, after being outside all day, it was all sweaty. Xiao Chusheng narrowed his eyes when he heard this guy's words, inexplicably a little irritated. So this dog's bad taste is guilty again, and the language is shocking, thinking about how to snub you in a while to roll in bed. The first thing I want to do is to make sure that I have a good understanding of what I'm doing. Chapter 37 This kind of thing you want girls to take the initiative? In fact, Xiao Chusheng is not exactly a joke, after all, his body is worth the age of blood and vigor. If it is not these 2 days stall stand a night is really too tired, this back after the legs are almost unconscious, he has long been unable to hold back on this guy down. After all, he and Lin Shi have the feelings of the past life and that continued, and he himself is not the kind of pretentious guy. When you are in love, how can you escape? After taking a good shower, Xiao Chusheng returned to the bedroom wearing only a pair of shorts. Lin Shi saw the naked Xiao Chusheng, she blushed to the root of her neck, but still couldn't help but steal a few glances. After all, the desire for the body of the opposite sex does not only exist in men. Well, when a woman is colorful, there is nothing for men. If you want to see it, you can see it, and will not grow the eye of a needle. Xiao Chusheng said with a bad smile. Lin Shi, a big beautiful woman, hummed softly and turned her face away. Xiao Chusheng reminded Lin Shi, remember to bring your change of clothes and common things when you come back tomorrow. You'll be living in Hangzhou for a long time to come, and you need to be mentally prepared to travel back and forth between Shanghai and Hangzhou. Hearing Xiao Chusheng say business, Lin Shi's expression also became serious for a few minutes, then nodded her head and responded, It was just that after the two of them finished chatting about business, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. After all, a hot summer, a man and a woman and share a room also crowded in a bed to look at each other's face to sleep. It seems that couples are just like that, right? Bedroom room is not very dark, so the two rely on the light coming in through the window can barely see each other's faces. Smelling the odor of each other's body, the two uncontrollably breathed a little sharply. Sure, you smell good. Xiao Chusheng swallowed his saliva. In fact, in his previous life, he had discovered that Lin Shi had a plant aroma, if anything, very fresh, a bit like the feeling of entering a Chinese herbal pharmacy, but not too obvious, not as punchy as the odor in the pharmacy. Xiao Chusheng shattered Lin Shi's psychological defense with a single sentence, and in the dimly lit room, Lin Shi's face burned. Because the two were almost next to each other, and then a little closer was hugging and sleeping together, so in the silence, her fluttering and rapid heartbeat was heard clearly by Xiao Chusheng. Xiao Chusheng couldn't help but smile. Now Lin Shi is still very innocent, a little tease will be too shy, really cute. Just when the two people were at a standstill, Lin Shi only felt that her waist was quietly embraced by a salty pig's hand. Lin Shi opened her mouth, just wanted to say something to spit it out, but in the end, she couldn't make a sound. Because her mouth has been blocked. Lin Shi subconsciously wanted to push away this dog man, but gradually, she only felt as if her entire body was going to melt away. The strength in her body was also getting smaller and smaller, and in the end, even she herself fell into it. Thus, Lin Shi obeyed her instincts and was also responding to Xiao Chusheng. At the moment of separation, the two of them were slightly stunned. Lin Sure was furious, and after pinching Xiao Chusheng's waist twice, she pulled over this dog's arm and bit it hard a few times. However, Xiao Chusheng didn't give this guy a chance, all kinds of dodging, and finally rolled over and pinned Lin Sure down. "Let go of me, let me bite you a few bites out of anger," Lin Sure clamored. Xiao Chusheng did not think so. Suddenly, as if he thought of something, he suddenly smiled evilly. Lin Sure's heart thumped. She always felt that this guy was not holding back his farts, but she was being controlled by this dog Xiao Chusheng, and there was absolutely no possibility of resistance. As expected, this dog attached to Lin Sure's ear whispered, "Arm certainly cannot give you bite, but you can try something else?" "What other things?" Lin Sure, without personnel in the meet Xiao Chusheng this dog thing before, simply did not think about this aspect of things. After all, in the foster parents' home, living is very bitter, where there will be extra energy to fantasize about the future. Lin Sure sometimes even thought her such a family is a chicken feather, or do not find a boyfriend, otherwise it is to harm each other. Just she also did not expect, do not have to wait for her to find a boyfriend, the boyfriend himself to find. Well, it cannot be considered a boyfriend, after all, they are now the female college students who are being adopted. But if it was him, being a little lover was actually quite good. This is what Lin Sure is thinking nowadays. She does not have too many extravagant expectations for happiness, as long as she does not live so painfully, it is very good. So what Xiao Chusheng brought to her, that is the future that can be seen with the naked eye, is hope. Now Xiao Chusheng, this dog is purely relying on his old driver to cheat, to sneak up on Lin Sure, this little comrade. "Right, I want to say it, you guess it yourself." Xiao Chusheng smiled like a villain. Lin Sure was suspicious. "Guess?" Halfway through her words, Lin Sure's expression suddenly stiffened, and with it, her face turned red, so hot that it seemed like she could spread eggs. Even Xiao Chusheng could clearly feel this heat and couldn't help but wonder, is that so? "Are you that shy?" Lin Sure didn't say anything and buried her face into Xiao Chusheng's arms. Being controlled by Xiao Chusheng, she was still struggling a moment ago, but now? She directly did not move. This also put Xiao Chusheng to get a little confused. Not you how a little reaction is no longer there? Buried in her arms, Lin Sure raised her small fists and pounded the dogman, but did not want to use too much force. I heard Lin Sure say in a thin mosquito voice, "What do you want me to react?" "Please, I am a girl, this kind of thing you want girls to take the initiative? I'm not sure how to react to this." This from into Xiao Chusheng to the whole will not her this, what does it mean? This is to imply that I what? Let me take the initiative? Wait a minute, she will not agree, right? Think here, Xiao Chusheng breathing again sharply up, swallowed a mouth of saliva, only feel dry mouth. I am from it? From it? Or from it? Xiao Chusheng's heart was struggling frantically, searching for whether or not to follow Lin Sure. Lin Sure saw Xiao Chusheng delayed and did not let go of her, her willow eyebrows slightly knitted. Overcoming her shyness, Lin Sure summoned up the courage to speak softly, "If you really can't stand it, it's not like I can't." After hesitation, Xiao Chusheng still shook his head, "Or don't, tomorrow have to get up early, this if the whole day mental state will be very bad." Lin Sure thought for a moment, then said, "But I can make up a sleep on the train on the way." The problem is that I have to get up early too. Only to see Lin Sure used a tone of taking things for granted. "Well, but I don't mind, anyway, I'm already a college student, I can be lazy." Chapter 38. Can you put your hand off my leg? Xiao Chusheng felt there was being exasperated. In terms of being dark, Lin Sure could indeed be. Giggle, "I can let you, you're the one who doesn't want it." Lin Sure laughed out a goose call. Xiao Chusheng the dogman only felt that he was incomparably suffocated. He inexplicably felt that Lin Sure was deliberately provoking him, but he had no evidence. Thinking of this, he narrowed his eyes slightly and stared meaningfully at Lin Sure. "You wouldn't actually have expectations yourself, would you?" Xiao Chusheng deliberately asked this. In fact, he had already sensed that Lin Sure was actually a bit active towards him, and was even somewhat expecting himself to do something to her. However, Lin Sure did not open her face and did not admit it. There's no way, the girl's unique reserve is at work, even if her heart is that way, but her mouth absolutely can't admit it. There was really no other way. Xiao Chusheng could only embrace her, sniffing the reassuring fragrance of her body to fall asleep. Only although he fell asleep, someone else was insomniac. It was Lin Sure who was right. Xiao Chusheng, this dogman, had run away, and as a result, she was furious when she herself couldn't sleep instead. The key thing was that this guy was still not honest even though he was asleep. A good man should have a gun pointed at him, right? Even more angry. Humph, bad guy. Lin Sure hummed, not afraid of Xiao Chusheng hearing. Because she has deliberately led him here, but unfortunately Xiao Chusheng is really asleep. After all, one stop is a night, can be too tired. Lin Shi naturally also cleared this point, then carefully drilled into Xiao Chusheng's arm, sniffing his body of the stock of security full of little boy peculiar flavor to fall asleep. Since being brought to Hangzhou by Xiao Chusheng, Lin Shi had not lost any sleep in the past few days. Probably far away from her adoptive father and mother's family, she was really having a feeling that she was still alive. Meanwhile at the Qi family home, the TV was still playing boring and lengthy TV commercials. A stupid beauty on the sofa had long since entered dreamland at some point. In the corner of her mouth hangs a wisp of crystal clear saliva. This guy also from time to time dreamy murmur, do not know what is talking about. But one could tell that the idiot beauty was happy, because even though she had fallen asleep, there was still a peaceful smile on her face. Probably because she was so lonely, Shi Suguru almost needed to listen to something to fall asleep. Sometimes it's a song in her hand, sometimes it's a program on TV, and listening to those vocals makes her more at ease. And there was one more thing, the fact that she turned on the TV with the lights on from time to time for a whole night would let people outside know that there was always someone in this house, and that she wouldn't be stepped on by those with evil intentions. Don't look at her just a fool, vigilance is very strong it. As for Xiao Chusheng, this dog thing, well, can only say that he does not take the ordinary way, a set of not speak of the martial arts moves to the Qi Sugwan. This fool is not so smart, brain beat down the machine. This is the only way to let him drill a hole. Early in the morning, just after 5 o'clock, Lin Shi and Xiao Chusheng were woken up by the alarm bell. Because Lin Shi's earliest train was at 6 o'clock, their time was actually quite tight. The two of them would still maintain the same look they had last night, the past night, and slept directly with their arms around each other. Xiao Chusheng greedily inhaled a breath, and unexpectedly actually caught a hint of a scent like milk from that scent that smelled like herbs. At once he had a strange expression, an illusion, definitely an illusion. But one had to admit that hugging her was really a little bit cool. This kind of feeling was something that Lin Shi, who had become an imperial lady in her previous life, could not compare to, as it was her own youthful limited edition. If the two of them were to hug at that kind of time, they simply couldn't even dare to think about how good it would be. It was probably going to be so good that it would go to heaven, right? Lin Shi herself has also rubbed sleepy eyes. She was Xiao Chusheng night to break defense, has been insomnia until the day or a little light before falling asleep. It didn't feel like much time had passed yet, so this would be a wake-up call. Especially when she saw Xiao Chusheng's spirit full of cheap smiles, she was even more angry. Viciously glared at this dog. This revenge will have to be avenged sooner or later. Don't you want me to bite you? Lin Shi thought indignantly. Wait for it, when the time comes, I will bite you until you beg for mercy. Because to go to the train station, this time in the morning, there is no public transportation or something, Xiao Chusheng will be home, almost not much use of the bike to push out. It feels like you can ride the whole little electric donkey. Xiao Chusheng thought about it. It's not cheap, is it? Although Lin Shi also felt that this proposal was quite good, she still had a heartache for money. Being Lin Shi so said, Xiao Chusheng just remembered, this is only 7 years, electric bicycle is generally really is an electric bicycle, cannot be counted as a small electric donkey. Mainstream or the kind of bicycle form, with pedals of the kind, and more bulky. The price is not cheap. Very miscellaneous brands are in 1,500–2,000 above. Find a time for you to get a driver's license, let's get a 4-wheel drive in one step. Xiao Chusheng immediately changed his mind. Ah? Lin Shi directly stupid eyes, 4 wheels? That's more expensive, right? She is really heartbroken money, after all, it is not easy to have more than 10,000, Xiao Chusheng this intends to spend out to buy a car? Xiao Chusheng is not think, mysteriously smiled, rest assured, not so fast to buy, and so you get a driver's license, we then buy. Oh. Lin Shi does not understand the doorway here, Xiao Chusheng can be too clear. In 2007, this is actually a driver's license, or plug some money, directly to the hand, or you have to all kinds of test, tossing a long time to finish the test. Anyway, no small half a year is not to get, to that time to buy a car money has not been a problem. When Xiao Chusheng was pumping up the bike, Lin Shi suddenly said, actually the car does not seem to be a necessity, you can save. Xiao Chusheng froze, but quickly responded, then asked her with a smile, you really think so? Lin Shi was a little unsure, but after seriously thinking about it, she still nodded, well. What you say is right and wrong. Xiao Chusheng explained up, as of now, the car is mainly convenient, and then if you drive it, you can always drive directly to Shanghai. Then the usefulness is still very small, right? Lin Shi asked rhetorically. No, this car thing, at least in these days, more represents a status. Xiao Chuxing told Lin Shi, in the future, we have to do all kinds of business, to let the other side will not despise us, to avoid a lot of trouble, a lot of things cannot fall on the surface, or there will be a lot of trouble. You have to know, not everyone in the world is so smart, look at people under the table, dog-eyed too many guys. Xiao Chuxing said all of this is his previous life when he started his own business, so it is quite touching. Have you sat down yet? Sit while we go? Xiao Chuxing touched the back seat. Lin Shi head out of a well, reason I understand, but before you go hands cannot first take down from my legs? Chapter 39 You raise me. Cough too silky, subconsciously touched a few more. Xiao Chuxing coughed awkwardly twice, it's a pity that you don't wear black silk on these legs. Lin Shi glanced deeply at him and hummed, ignoring him. Xiao Chuxing hemmed and hawed and pedaled his bike. Halfway there, he suddenly remembered that black silk seemed to be less popular in 2007. Xiao Chuxing impression, black silk seems to 9 or 10 years when suddenly on the streets are, before that is very few. But specifically because of what is more up he really did not have the impression. His so-called understanding of the previous life is only what he remembers, not everything knows, this is his as a reborn certain limitations. Xiao Chuxing thought about whether to take advantage of this win to earn the first. But on second thought, he didn't know the exact time point, not to mention, this shot to earn is not that much. To put it more accurately, the energy input return ratio is too low. With the same energy to do something else, that can earn back the money ratio will be more, this is the return ratio. For example, Xiao Chuxing now open night market barbecue stall, don't look at a day to earn quite a lot, but in fact, the return ratio of this thing is actually low pitiful. Ordinary people and capitalists to make money speed difference does not lie in earn more earn less, but in the ratio of input and return. Laborers work hard to earn the same amount of money, while capitalists tend to rely on the brain, generally as the so-called exchange of benefits. What do you mean by benefit exchange? In fact, it is empty gloves, both sides of each other empty gloves, in the process from the market to get profit. So Xiao Chuxing thought about it, absolutely do not go to waste energy to earn this money, because it is not unexpected words. Wait until the time of black silk popularity, his mobile internet plan has been completed layout. At that time, I definitely have to let Lin Shi wear black silk every day for me to see. I not only look, I have to tear one, no, two every day. Then I am leaving. Xiao Chuxing was still parking his bike, and Lin Shi waved with Xiao Chuxing. The dog man can only shout in a hurry, you wait. What is going on? Lin Shi blinked her beautiful eyes and asked in confusion. Finished. Xiao Chuxing also did not wait for Lin Shi's reaction, holding up her hand on the go, the car also does not stop, a hand holding Lin Shi, a hand holding the handlebar. Lin Shi looked at this scene a little worried, whispered to remind, this car is not stable, be careful to fall and hit the feet. I'm not afraid, I have a lot of strength. So where are you taking me? Lin Shi did not understand. Xiao Chuxing did not answer, took him to buy a few meat sandwiches at the breakfast stand near the train station, took 2 and stuffed them into her arms. After that, he gave her 2 cups of soy milk, is this enough to eat? Lin Shi looked at the arms of the meat buns and soybean milk, eyes flooded with dense, often touched in these inconspicuous moments. Previously, no one will be so to her, since Xiao Chuxing this come up to say that the small bad guy to adopt her will be so good to her. Not enough? Xiao Chuxing saw that she didn't make a sound, and thought that it wasn't enough for her to eat, so he was ready to take out another one of his 2 meat sandwiches and give it to her. As a result, Lin Shi hurriedly stopped, enough. Xiao Chuxing then heard that Lin Shi's voice was a little choked. In an instant, he guessed that Lin Shi's softest spot in her heart had been touched. But it was also this that made Xiao Chuxing feel even more sorry for her, and he couldn't help but reach out and stroke her hair, softly comforting her. Don't be too happy too soon. Xiao Chuxing was still full of mischief when he comforted her. As expected, Lin Shi looked up at him in surprise, her face full of puzzlement. Is this person a romantic insulator? However, Xiao Chuxing's next sentence almost made her cry out with a wow. Because what this dog man said was, because this is just where? This is just the beginning, every year in the future, even every day, you can be so happy. You can eat whatever you want, as much as you want, until you're full, and no one will ever let you go hungry again. Lin Shi couldn't hold back any longer, and flung herself into Xiao Chuxing's arms, bean-sized teardrops falling one after another. The big beauty cried with rain, Xiao Chuxing a hand carrying breakfast, a hand holding the handlebars, want to reach out and take her into his arms cannot. This scene was seen in the eyes of the passing pedestrians, but everyone tacitly just watched from afar, this is politeness. It was unknown how long this state lasted, Lin Shi got tired of crying. Only then did Xiao Chusheng speak out, "Well, you have to go, otherwise you should miss the train." Lin Shi broke into a smile and wiped the corners of her eyes, which were already red from crying. "If you miss it, then you miss it, big deal, I won't go back, you'll raise me." Xiao Chu Xingxin hung his breakfast on the handlebar, heartily stroking her hair. "Well, I raise you, so you don't have to be afraid of those dogs that want to bully you. You can go to school without fear, and go back in a big way." There are no words more reassuring than this. Xiao Chusheng is undoubtedly letting him be Lin Shi's solid backing. Lin Shi nodded heavily. "Remember to get a cell phone number first, and be sure to call us the first time you are in trouble." Before entering the station, Xiao Chusheng gave 1,000 instructions, and only after Lin Shi said she understood, did she let Lin Shi in. As a result, Lin Shi only took 2 steps. Xiao Chusheng suddenly called out to Lin Shi again. "Lin Shi. Is there anything else?" Lin Shi subconsciously turned around. Xiao Chusheng, like an old mother, repeatedly urged her, "Well, eat well at noon, don't eat poorly to save money." These words may seem very long-winded in the eyes of others, but in Lin Shi here, listen to it, is full of favor and happiness. Lin Shi, face overflowing with happy smile, quietly listening to Xiao Chusheng finished. Suddenly, she hugged Xiao Chusheng's face. Caught off guard, Xiao Chusheng only felt that his lips were fiercely imprinted. This kiss was not too long, and when he came back to his senses, Lin Shi was already so shy that she didn't even look back into the station. Looking at Lin Shi's figure entering the station, Xiao Chusheng felt empty at the bottom of his heart, even if he knew that she would be back in the afternoon. Waiting for Lin Shi's train to leave the station, Xiao Chusheng pedaled his bicycle back to school. Don't look at him as getting up early. After dropping off Lin Shi and then going back to school, he almost pedaled in at the right time. This dog was gnawing on a meat sandwich while still sucking on soy milk to get in the door. A little bit of the big boss posture is not there. See, Xiao Chusheng came. Su Hai came up to ask Xiao Chusheng, "That stall is really your all?" Xiao Chusheng did not deny, "Yes, it is mine." "How much money do you make? Is it a lot?" Su Hai is very curious. He can't imagine how much money can be made in one night from such a hot stall. But looking at Xiao Chusheng so spellbound, so he felt that it must be very profitable. Xiao Chusheng opened his mouth blandly. "Business secrets." The reasoning that money doesn't reveal itself is clearer to him than anyone else, so naturally he couldn't tell Su Hai. "What are you talking about?" At this time, Xiao Chusheng does not want to have contact with Zhang Jia, suddenly interjected. "It has nothing to do with you." Chapter 40, The Bastard Side. Xiao Chusheng's face showed his displeasure. Obviously he had already shown his resistance, but Zhang Jia was still sticking up again and again. It was like the person he once was himself. Thinking about this, Xiao Chusheng was in a heavy mood. Now that he had rejected Zhang Jia, but the positions of the two seemed to be completely reversed. Zhang Jia, aggrieved, timidly asked Xiao Chusheng, "I'm so annoying to you?" After all, Su Hai and her former classmates want to make around, signaling Xiao Chusheng do not go too far. However, Xiao Chusheng glanced at him. Lightly, no emotion in his tone. "Yes, I just hate." A single sentence caused Su Hai and Zhang Jia's expressions to freeze, because in their opinion, Xiao Chusheng should be a very nice person to talk to. On the surface it was indeed true, but this was only in school. In his previous life, Su Hai knew the real Xiao Chusheng when he was starting a business. The Xiao Chusheng of his student days was easygoing, but that was based on a foundation. Everyone was a student, there might be occasional verbal arguments, but what deep hatred could there be? Naturally, there is no need to be too entangled in those who have not. But when it comes to society, Xiao Chusheng will no longer restrain his sharpness, because he walks a difficult road. In the era of the internet economic outbreak, which is already a Red Sea, it's almost impossible to kill your way out. Under that kind of environment, an easygoing good old boy will only get beaten up. And this also inspired Xiao Chusheng's true animal side. And Xiao Chusheng, who was reborn and returned, has not restrained himself from this temper again. "Friends can be done, but you want me to play with you these house tricks? Forget it, I don't mind tearing my face off." Xiao Chusheng knows what Zhang Jia is thinking. She must want to find Su Hai as a lobbyist, trying to get Xiao Chusheng to give her a chance. Su Hai himself belonged to the kind of personality that had little opinion, and basically would not reject other people's requests. Coupled with Zhang Jia's friendship with him as a classmate, it would be even more impossible to refuse. On the contrary, that stupid beauty and Lin Shi were not familiar with Su Hai, so Su Hai naturally subconsciously favored the familiar Zhang Jia. Furthermore, there was another reason why Su Hai felt that Xiao Chusheng and the Qi University schoolgirl were not possible, even if they seemed to be dating right now. And he also saw that beautiful woman called Lin Shi last night. No matter which one it was, Su-hai's inferiority complex as an ordinary person made him not dare to think about them. And the easygoing Xiao Chusheng was subconsciously treated by Su-hai as someone on the same level as him, so he felt that no matter it was that Lin Shi or Chi Sanso last night, Xiao Chusheng was not worthy of them. They definitely won't have a good result, while Zhang Jiayi is more suitable for Xiao Chusheng, because they are both at about the same level. So when she first came in the morning, Zhang Jiayi approached Su-hai and convinced him to help her recover Xiao Chusheng. But what kind of person was Xiao Chusheng now? He was a veteran. Could this little trick be hidden from him? He could tell at a glance that there was some twisting between Su-hai and Zhang Jiayi, but what connection could there be between the two? That would definitely be him. In his opinion, to refuse, one should refuse completely, and to break, one should also break completely. Since there was no love left, there was no need to get involved anymore. But any give her a little hope will endlessly lead to all kinds of trouble. So it is not Xiao Chusheng desperate, well is desperate. Xiao Chusheng such a person, feelings are still in the time he will be hard to you, but once the feelings are gone, that is more indifferent than a stranger. And he and Zhang Jiayi's destiny in love, as early as in the previous life, when she went behind his back to find the next family exhausted. In fact, he is not to Zhang Jiayi have much love, but think that since you do not want to live with me, then we get together and goodbyes. What do you mean by this? So this life, Xiao Chusheng will never have any feelings for Zhang Jiayi. To know in men and women's feelings, the most hurtful than not caring. Xiao Chusheng was like that to Zhang Jiayi at the moment. Ignoring Zhang Jiayi, Xiao Chusheng indifferently swept a glance at Su-hai. Last time, next time I'll directly turn my face. Su-hai's face is also a little ugly. He was also just good intentions, but did not expect Xiao Chusheng is really not a bit of face to give. Bastard let's be reasonable. Su-hai tried to explain his behavior. But against Xiao Chusheng's cold eyes, he could only silently swallow all the words back. Because this is the first time he has seen Xiao Chusheng look at a person with this kind of eyes, he even saw a strand of murderous aura from it. As the classroom grew crowded, Su-hai could only turn his head away, and Zhang Jiayi could only silently return to her seat. However, it could be seen that she was restraining her emotions in a low voice, not allowing herself to cry out. Xiao Chusheng didn't pay any more attention to the two men. All he had on his mind right now was messing with money and those two guys, oh yeah, and his own family. Lin Shi and that idiot could probably be family in a sense. Then it's fine. Old Lu, the homeroom teacher, came to walk around the class, and when he passed by Xiao Chusheng, he realized that Xiao Chusheng was also there. However, he didn't say anything, as if he didn't remember the previous incident between Chi Sugo and him, shaking his head and walking away with a six-parent pace. Perhaps Xiao Chusheng was too strong in the morning, no matter whether it was Su-hai or Zhang Jiayi did not come to disturb him. For this reason, Xiao Chusheng was in excellent condition and in a happy mood. After the idiot beauty came, also brought Lin Shi's cell phone number, as well as the news that she has arrived in Shanghai. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief, nodded and said to the idiot, at noon she should not be able to rush back. I'm sorry, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it. The idiot beauty blinked clear eyes and asked. Xiao Chusheng helplessly lied him, can. After that it is the guy persuaded back to her own class, or to this guy's sluggishness she is afraid not to stay here until noon. However, Xiao Chusheng has a kind of inexplicable sentiment. He thought to himself, if the woman he chose in his previous life was a fool beauty, such a character, perhaps there are not so many bad memories, right? But on second thought, if it was a girlfriend like idiot beauty, Xiao Chusheng will probably be a small rich person, may find a classes very satisfied. Sure enough, some things are actually destined to hijack. This thing cannot hide. By noon, Su-hai probably came with an apology and wanted to invite Xiao Chusheng to dinner. But Xiao Chusheng directly refused. I have an appointment with Chi Sanson. Su-hai stared wide-eyed, in fact, inwardly still a little not quite dare to believe. Animal, you in the end is not with late school flowers in the relationship. Not waiting for Xiao Chusheng to answer, Chi Sanchuan suddenly entered the door and anxiously shoved his cell phone to Xiao Chusheng. Xiao Chusheng's face changed dramatically after reading it. Chapter 41. It's okay to be greedy, right? Many people in this idiot Chi Sanchuan's class ran away in advance, so she followed. Then this guy squatted outside Xiao Chusheng's class to sneak a peek inside. After all, she was too pretty and famous in the school, it was hard for any of them not to notice. This idiot ran into the classroom in a hurry and shoved his cell phone to Xiao Chusheng, but when Xiao Chusheng took a look at the content, his face instantly became ugly and he turned around and rushed out of the classroom. A certain idiot also followed behind him, running fast. Xiao Chusheng braked sharply and stopped her. What are you following for? You first go to eat, I go to find her. Then this idiot is a poor look, pursed lips, very stubborn look. I also want to go to. Xiao Chusheng cannot help but see the situation to hold his forehead. To this guy for a time do not know what to say to be good. In the end, he could only sigh lightly. Alright. Then go. He actually wanted to give old Lu a word, but it was just a pity that he didn't have the time now. Not coming in the afternoon is actually no big deal. Anyway, there is nothing in school these days, just sitting there to kill time. Took a cab and went all the way straight to the train station. First buy a good ticket. In waiting for the car into the station period, Xiao Chusheng ran to buy 2 boxed lunches. This kind of boxed lunch is basically all vegetarian, and the flavor is not too good, but at the moment can't care so much. After that, he also hold a big bucket of ice-cold cola. After all, the day is so hot, the train and a lot of people. The two squatted in the waiting room to solve the boxed lunch, and filled a few mouthfuls of Fat House Happy Water, and then got on the train. Chi Sanchuan, this idiot, also do not know is really do not mind, or nerve big, holding Xiao Chusheng drank the Coke bucket drink happily. But Xiao Chusheng thought, I have this abstract relationship with her, as if drinking the same bottle of drink together is really nothing. When he thought of this, he was suddenly relieved. At noon, the car is actually quite few people, many seats are empty. Xiao Chusheng used this idiot's cell phone to call Lin Shi, and Lin Shi answered in seconds. Learning that Xiao Chusheng was going to pick her up without saying a word, she almost didn't cry out on the spot, but her mouth was still saying, "You don't have to come, I'll find a time to go back. We are already on the train." Xiao Chusheng spoke softly. Ah? Already on the train? Lin Shi was surprised, but quickly figured out what was wrong in his words. Wait, they? Xiao Chusheng didn't hide it and softly ummed, yes, this idiot is also here. I'm not an idiot. Shi Sanzho bluffed his little face with a fierce look, a look that was still strangely cute. Ah? You all came? Lin Shi was even more dumbfounded. Well, anyway, you wait, and also, don't aggravate yourself, ask someone to bring you some rice, and don't eat poorly. Ah? I'm sorry. Lin Shi hung up the phone, still some trance, mouth cannot stop murmuring, she also came. Thinking about it, Lin Shi's mood is very complicated. She had some indescribable feelings for Chi Sugo, a girl who was quite dull but also quite pleasing to the eye. But likewise, she couldn't figure out what kind of feelings this naturally dull girl had for Xiao Chusheng. Now this naturally dull girl actually ran to pick herself up without saying anything, which made her have an inexplicable sentiment. When people were moved, they would lose their rationality. For a moment, she actually had an urge to want the three to become a family. It was a pretty bad and impulsive thought. It was even more twisted. But this was what Lin Shi expected at this moment. She couldn't let go of Xiao Chusheng, nor could she let go of this naturally dull girl. Because she had lived the first half of her life too bitterly, and when she met someone who was genuinely good to her, she couldn't let go of anyone. Even if she knows that she thinks so bad, she is too greedy, but I have lived so bitter, I paid so much. It's not easy for me to meet someone who's good to me, so it's okay for me to be greedy, right? Lin Shi? Who are you calling? Who's coming? Lin Shi's roommate, Zhu Wen, asked curiously. Zhu Wen was a somewhat introverted, but nice girl who was a bit short. However, she was a pretty cute glasses girl. This Lin Shi was speechless and didn't know how to explain for a while. Xiao Chusheng and himself, that is a boyfriend? Or is it the Gold Master? Father who is harboring himself? But no matter which one she said, she was afraid that it would be spread out to make the entire finance academy in an uproar. To know, one of the reasons she couldn't leave now had something to do with this. 2 days ago, she ran off to Hangzhou for 2 days at a time, staying out at night. When she came back to class in the morning, it turned out that the news of her return was spread by someone who didn't know what. When she went into the dormitory to pack her clothes, she was blocked in the dormitory by someone, the junior senior who had been chasing him before. Lin Shi really didn't like this person, and clearly rejected him many times, but this person was still happy to do so. The most crucial thing is that this person is also a very Puxin. Everyone said that Lin Shi will be his woman sooner or later, so that other people to stay away from her. This kind of person is very self-centered and tries to interfere with other people's lives, proving that his character is extremely poor. So not only did Lin Shi have no good feelings towards him, but she grew more and more disgusted. This time she came back to finish her classes and planned to get a change of clothes and go back to Hangzhou. If not for the lack of time, she even planned to directly even pack all the things in the dormitory and bring them there. If nothing else, she will spend more time in Hangzhou than in Shanghai in the next year. But on her side, she was still packing up her things, when that boy brought people to block the downstairs, telling people to set up flowers ready to express their love. This is what the people in the class reported to the newspaper, making Lin Sure furious. The most crucial thing was that the guy also screamed that he wouldn't stop until he said yes. A look of moral kidnapping. Moreover, he called a group of boys from the school who played well with him to block people, and Zhuan even heard the boy bragging to his boys who were with him when he came back. Waiting for Lin Sure to come down, he came with a deep confession, followed by a wall thud to strengthen the kiss, absolutely take down. At night, he could take her out to a room. When Lin Sure learned about this, she was furious and laughed. The little boy who made his heart flutter didn't even bother to sleep with himself. You dog thing is thinking quite beautiful. So she told Shi Sanso about it, and asked Shi Sanso to tell Xiao Chusheng that she might go back later in the afternoon. When this asshole downstairs gets tired of waiting, she will go downstairs and sneak away. It is not that she dares not go down like this, mainly she is a girl, the other side of the crowd, to come hard on her, in case she was taken advantage of would be too disgusting. She didn't want to soil herself. Zhuan smiled and sized up Lin Sure. Sure, you honestly explain, where have you been these 2 days? Look at you, you're not in love, are you? Chapter 42 Lin Your Mother's. Facing her roommate's flirtation, Lin Sure subconsciously blushed slightly and didn't refute at first. Zhuan had been dealing with Lin Sure for 2 years as well, and it was the first time she had seen this kind of Lin Sure. So at that moment, her eyes widened in disbelief. Wow, it can't be true, right? It's not possible that you've been together for the past 2 days, right? You gave it to him? I have to say, Zhuan, this woman is anxious enough, more anxious than Lin Sure, the person in question. Lin Sure had a red face and didn't answer, because she actually had some urges inside. If Xiao Chusheng had been a little more active, she would have half pushed and half shunned. After all, she felt that she should be unable to do without him. A boy who wanted to help her in her situation, but not because he was greedy for her body. Lin Sure couldn't think of what this boy was for her. So what if he did crave her body? Lin Sure is a little inferior, maybe this body is all she has left. Unfortunately, what Lin Sure didn't realize was that a certain beast was naturally here for her body. That was definitely true. But what this guy was also after was her brain. Zhuan, her roommate, sized up Lin Sure meaningfully, and at the moment, she only felt that she had lived a long time. A talented woman like Lin Sure would actually fall in love? It was hard to imagine what it would be like for someone like her to fall in love. So she tried to pry out other information about the man from Lin Sure, such as which school he went to, or even if he had already graduated, where he worked, and so on. Lin Sure often went out to work several jobs, something that all of them, her roommates, knew about, and they all knew about Lin Sure's family's shit. So every time Lin Sure's vampire foster parents came over, her housemates would cover for them and help Lin Sure avoid them as much as possible. So in Zhuan's opinion, Lin Sure should have quite a lot of contact with men in the society in her spare time, and then it's not unacceptable for her to be chased by a man who's a few years older than her and has already joined the workforce. Oh yes, there is a prerequisite, that is, don't be too old. Lin Sure pursed her lips, facing her roommate's aggressive questioning. She didn't know how to describe Xiao Chusheng for a while. After all, he was hard to describe. It was also at this time that the downstairs was suddenly noisy. The two men came to the window to take a look. It turned out to be the person below who was impatiently waiting and finally wanted to come to the hard way. Originally, that guy thought that if he showed enough sincerity, Lin Sure would at least give a face down. But in the hot sun, it's been 3 hours. Where is she? Where is she? Lin Sure, this woman is too desperate to not give them face. If the confession of two lovers, that is called romantic. But if it's a one-sided self-touching, then it becomes a clown's dog-licking joke. No, making such a big commotion attracted many onlookers. The result? The person in question was treated as a joke. Lin Sure was at least the freshman school flower of her class, and at the same time, she was also a talented girl that several professors recognized, so she could be considered quite famous. Therefore, in the past 2 years, there were countless boys who had confessed to Lin Sure and tried to chase after her. Therefore, when someone confessed to Lin Sure, no one was surprised at all. They all came with the attitude of watching. After all, no one thought you would succeed. But what about you? This is not even a plan, this is halftime to open the champagne. Just now began to blow their what package to take the bull, but also the night to take to the hotel? Just now the cow how loud, now this face hit how loud. At once, this party who wants to confess has become a joke. He was being pointed at, his face was green and red, his face was ugly. Maybe it was because he was so annoyed, this guy couldn't stand it any longer, and shouted in the direction of Lin Shu's window upstairs, "Lin Shu, I love you, you love me too, right? Give a response, everyone is looking forward to it, you can't even show your face off." In front of so many people, this is a bit disgusting, this guy can be said to be playing moral abduction this set. Oh, see, when she comes down, I a bosom hug sister kill, and then take a deep kiss of the streak, we'll take. This guy feels good about himself, and with a few friends around the same department packing. Coincidentally, these words were heard by a certain beast who just got off the train and rushed here. Who are you going to take? Who are you going to take? The man subconsciously replied, Lin Shura, who else? Lin your mother s. Nationalism with a plain and simple lean leg, Xiao Chusheng kicked this man to fly out. This guy was still pretending to be a pussy in the front foot, and this pussy was only half pretending to be a pussy, but he felt a hot pain in his buttocks, as if it was exploded by a flat stick. Then his eyes black, the whole person fell a dog shit. At that moment, the whole scene was dead silent. Everyone didn't expect that there was actually a new melon. This scene was even more so that Lin Shu and Zhuan who were upstairs happened to look at it in their eyes, especially Zhuan, who had an expression of looking at the scene. Wow, sure, did you see that? That idiot got beaten up, eh? Sure? Zhuan then realized that Lin Shu had already run away. The first time I saw her, she was confused, but she quickly reacted, this can't be right. Zhuan was also in a hurry to react, stepping on her slippers and chasing Lin Shu downstairs. The boy who was kicked in the dog's poop, his face in close contact with the hot ground, painfully bared his teeth. When he managed to get up, he saw Lin Shu sprinting in his direction with a worried look on her face. This scene made his entire body swoon as he watched. Although he didn't know how he had been sneak attacked, it wasn't a loss, inviting the goddess here. This guy also puissantly thought, oh, so it's the way I opened it that's not right. To chase the goddess Lin Shu, you have to sell misery. This is not, people see me injured, this is not very worried about me? Saying that, he raised his arms with a piggish face and assumed a posture to greet the goddess. He thought Lin Shu was going to jump into his arms. But Lin Shu didn't even give him a single glance and went straight around him. He was dumbfounded, and so were the onlookers. It wasn't just him, in fact, the onlookers thought that this guy had impressed the goddess's heart by selling his misery. Some were even resentful of how the goddess was taken down so easily. But what happened? Lin Shu didn't even look at him and went around? But the next scene was what caused everyone's pupils to truly quake. Only to see the goddess Lin Shu, without even the slightest hesitation, jump straight into the arms of a boy. Including the boy who wanted to confess to Lin Shu, everyone was petrified. No, dude, what's going on here? Everyone was confused, the goddess of all of them was just abducted? You're here. Lin Shu was trying her best to suppress the joy in her voice. I'm coming. Chapter 43, Foolish Beauty Freaks Out. This scene blinded the titanium alloy dog eyes of countless melon eaters, and many even didn't understand. Why would goddess Lin Shu be taken down by such a boy who looked as if he wasn't too tall and was just a little bit handsome? In fact, Xiao Chusheng was not low in height, but was still in the developmental stage. In his previous life, Xiao Chusheng was in his sophomore year when he scaled up another cut, and at this time he was also the average or above average height of his peers. Of course, these onlookers naturally didn't think too much. The boy who was kicked out by Xiao Chusheng finally reacted. Jealousy made his face completely different, jealousy to scarlet eyes. Pointing at Xiao Chusheng, he questioned, damn, where did you come from? Lin Shu is my woman, give me a long way away. Xiao Chusheng swept a glance at him unhurriedly, this bastard he actually recognized. Oh no, can't be called recognize. He should say that he had seen him before. In her last life, Lin Shu was pestered by this guy for a long time, and even after starting a business with Xiao Chusheng, this guy even ran to the company downstairs a few times to set up candles. But by Xiao Chusheng. This lack of moral goods with a fire extinguisher to teach people to do, and then later he came again. Lin Shu called the security guards to do it themselves, beat him to the face a few times after they have never seen again. This kind of stalker, give him a good face is useless, because he will only get an inch. I can only say that this kind of people are protected by the law, otherwise they would have been sunk in the river long ago. Kid, your father asked you, don't play dumb. This guy thought that Xiao Chusheng was subdued by him, and immediately was a villainous look. This person looks taller, a little silly big feeling, on the height is really easy to give those freshmen not small sense of oppression. However, Xiao Chusheng is really not a goat. Lin Shu heard this guy full of dirty mouth, ice cold a few points, want to help Xiao Chusheng scold back. But Xiao Chusheng simply did not have this opportunity for her, and even more so, did not give that bastard a chance. Fool, you again mouth stink a try? Going up is swinging his fist to a plain and simple uppercut. The whole process happened too fast, the person concerned did not even have the opportunity to react to be Xiao Chusheng hit confused. Instead, his gang of companions reacted to come up and beat up Xiao Chusheng. This year, whether it is the school or society, the security is not so good, fighting group fight is quite common. Lin Shi is very panicked, because even if Xiao Chusheng how to fight, that is also a person, 2 fists cannot beat 4 hands, this reason she understands. But Xiao Chusheng is not slow to take a deep breath, posing a martial arts master pose, Wing Chun, beast. A bunch of people look at him this posture, all confused. Good guy, this kid will not still be a martial arts practitioner, right? In fact, Donnie Yen Zip Man was only released at the end of 2008, so no one got the point of Xiao Chusheng at all. But that doesn't stop him from pretending to be a pussy. Of course, he is not just pretending, because this dog is really no Wing Chun. In a flash, Xiao Chusheng grabbed the leader and beat him to death, snapping a set of moves to beat the person's nose and face. The true meaning of a group fight is to catch the leader and beat him to death. Xiao Chusheng's hand, directly to these college students who have not been in society to be scared dumb, no longer have the courage to go forward. Several people's legs and stomachs were trembling. Xiao Chusheng laughed coldly. The old man's past life as the Jiangshan was fought out. You a bunch of stupid college students, how can understand the old man's hardship? Of course, don't look at this person with Xiao Chusheng beaten bruises and swollen face, in fact, nothing at all, sent to the hospital, even minor injuries are not counted. Xiao Chusheng this hand Wing Chun, but in his previous life to learn, not for anything else, is to be able to self-preservation at a critical time, cannot hit the master, but hit some strong point of the ordinary people is to play. This is also the reason why he dared to run to find Chen Bin before. Even if Chen Bin at this time did not know what to do, he could completely fight all the way out. Although the reborn body did not go through the same specialized fitness training as in his previous life, the subconscious skills to beat a bunch of stupid college students is still like playing. This is Xiao Chusheng dare to do at the bottom, can collect the force, even if the police came as just verbal education, at most compensate a few $100s. If someone is playing hard to get, he did not leave his hand directly to him to waste, that is self-defense. Of course, it is possible to over-defend, is it? Xiao Chusheng kicked the goods afoot, directly to him kicked a dog shit, only then turned his head to Lin Shi said, upstairs to get things, let's go. Lin Shi nodded heavily and was about to turn around and go upstairs. But at this time, just now that was Xiao Chusheng hit confused boys suddenly stormed. Son of a bitch, is that you bad old son good thing, die? His target is exactly Xiao Chusheng, while Xiao Chusheng and Lin Shi talk, did not pay attention to him, he engaged in a sneak attack, the whole person towards Xiao Chusheng pounced. Xiao Chusheng is naturally prepared for, just did not wait for Xiao Chusheng shot, Xiao Chusheng was naturally prepared, but before Xiao Chusheng could make a move, a silhouette had already blocked in front of him. Have to admit, idiot beauty, this altitude is really very secure. Xiao Chusheng a moment have a kind of subtle trance feeling. Not only was Xiao Chusheng in a trance, the boy who had sneak attacked Xiao Chusheng was also in a trance, because Qi Sanchuang's face was really beautiful, briefly giving him anger to wilt. The beauty of the beauty of the beauty. But waiting for him is not Qi Sugo's shyness, but a merciless hammer. Still half a bottle of vat of coke with stupid beauty as a weapon, solidly pumped in this goods on the bridge of the nose. Or one after another, the force of the big, see Xiao Chusheng or chills. Good guy, this idiot hit people so hard. Xiao Chusheng didn't hurt him, by this hand of idiot beauty, I am afraid to be seriously injured. Foolish beauty expressionless, hands holding the coke bucket non-stop tamping, pain this guy wailed, can only raise his hand subconsciously resist foolish beauty's offense. The onlookers were dumbfounded, who would have thought that such a beautiful beauty would actually hit so hard? But then look at the guy's high and cold look seemed reasonable. Only Xiao Chusheng knew that this guy wasn't high and cold at all, but rather socially terrified. Now she's this side to the deadbeat posture, 80% is stress, this guy is to protect him to stand out. Thinking of here, he could not help but be a little touched inwardly, and hurriedly went up to hold down her 2 small hands, well, and then hit down out of the human life. Coke bucket bottle has been stained with blood, is smashing this stupid when the bottom of the bottle cut through the skin on his face and arms with. It wasn't too serious, just scary. Idiot beauty at first also subconsciously struggling, the strength of the big scary let Xiao Chusheng all kinds of horror. This guy is so able to eat, it seems that it is not in vain, haha. After seeing that the person who stopped her was Xiao Chusheng, the idiot beauty suddenly changed as if she was a different person, and her eyes stared blankly at the bucket of coke in her hand. It can't be drunk. Xiao Chusheng hurriedly touched her head. I can't drink it, let's buy it again later. Oh. Bang. The Coke bucket was thrown out by the idiot beauty, and ruthlessly smashed in the face of that stupid idiot. Chapter 44. Want to know how to destroy a person? A blow to the head? No, it's called a faceplant. This scene saw everyone present subconsciously sucked in a mouthful of cool air. This hit the storm, afraid to die of pain, right? And indeed it did. The boys were smashed out of the pig-killing squeals by this, but were soon completely enraged. Without the Coke bucket, the idiot beauty was dumbfounded on the spot. The boy's eyes were scarlet this time. He couldn't care less about pitying the girl, and swung his fist up towards the idiot beauty. This time Xiao Chusheng didn't hesitate any longer, and kicked the bastard who was charging at him head-on with a solid kick. But it is kicked in the chest. This guy is only focusing on headlong forward, or has it occurred to him that someone is waiting for him? This kick kicked him over, so angry that his mouth angrily screamed and cursed, "Damn, asshole, son of a bitch, I'll kill you." Xiao Chusheng's eyes became unusually cold, with a few points of killing intent added to them. He walked in front of this guy, and was not afraid of him storming out. He still dared to make a move that it could be self-defense. On what grounds? When she was a freshman, Laozi looked at her. On what grounds? I will soon be able to intern, and then I can make millions of dollars a year, and I will be an executive in a financial company. Linsher, why can't you see me? The boy broke his defenses in general, telling his ego touched. It was a pity that no one even wanted to listen to his forced words. Those words made him even more disliked, because the guy's brain circuits were simply incomprehensible to normal people. However, Xiao Chusheng, who had been reborn and returned from the future, was able to understand it at the moment. In fact, if you substitute the background of the times, you can also understand. This time note internet has not yet been popularized. Most of the people in most places are still convinced that the concept of education is supreme. Even some students in remote places are still thinking that the college entrance examination will change their lives. It is true that the college entrance examination can change life, but it is not absolute. What these students think is that if they go to university, they can have a good job and earn millions or even tens of millions of dollars a year. This social phenomenon was not broken until the popularization of mobile internet and the absence of information barriers between regions. Xiao Chusheng has an impression of this guy. If he remembers correctly, it is called Songyu. It is from Yu province. His family has little money, and even less background. Ordinary to can no longer ordinary a person. It is such a person, but in the delusion of internship into a large company has a few million annual salary. Xiao Chusheng only wanted the previous life crawling and fighting so many years. He has long known many of the rules of this society. There is no background and no economic strength, but learn finance. Not to say all of these people, at least 99.99% of the people will be very miserable. To ask what? The reason is very simple. There are many geniuses who are stronger than you. You have nothing. Why should others use you? So these guys who study finance want to make money in the financial field. There are only two ways. Their own business as a boss. The result is that 10 entrepreneurs 8 deaths. There is one in the eating soil. Or evening rich women. First of all you have to have a good face, oh yes, and secondly have to live well. There is a chance that you can join the family. As for the big company? Laughing dead, fear is not awake. The money of the big companies are in the hands of their own absolute trust control, will never be handed over to an outsider. Learn finance. You still want to enter a large company? Other people, those rich kids, learn finance, that is in order to manage their own companies, that is, the so-called own people. As for these ordinary financial graduates, even if they're really good luck into a large company, the top of the day also do a financial accounting. Executives? I can only say that the dream has everything. Squatting down in front of the fallen guy, Xiao Chusheng lowered his voice and indifferently spat out a sentence. Want to know how to destroy a person? Ah. A sentence that made the fallen boy's face suddenly change. Xiao Chusheng didn't pay attention to his face, but stared at him with a gloomy gaze. Guys like you can still fantasize that you have a promising future. However, I can only say that people like you in the end will just be working for someone. Oh, it's just the life of working for someone like me. It's a pity that I can't see it. You're talking nonsense. Songyu was already furious. He didn't want to believe this kind of thing because it seemed too ridiculous to him. A highly educated person like him would work for someone who was also a student? On what grounds? Xiao Chusheng, however, ignored his broken defense and continued on by himself. As for me, I'm a villain, and revenge has always been taken from morning to night. To destroy trash like you, it can be more than simple. For example, I spend a little money to find a person, every day to your door lock to pour 502. every day in your home on the road to set on the sack to beat you. Xiao Chusheng said here, revealing a hideous smile. Oh yes, if you happen to work in the company of a friend I know, directly kicked you out, or I find someone to go to the company where you work every day to make a mess, do you think which company will keep you? Do you think any company will keep you? Even if you are so down and out that you have to go to the stalls by yourself? I then buy a few punks to smash your stall every day. Do you think your so-called proud of your education can protect you? These are the dirtiest, most vicious means. The previous life Xiao Chusheng is used in Lin Shi foster parents' family. Now he was merely repeating it to this guy named Song Yu. After listening to this guy's face became white, Xiao Chusheng is considered to have taught him what is called life is dangerous. Of course, this is not the end, because Xiao Chusheng coldly snorted, speaking of which you are proud of is the education, right? I can also so ruin you, such as in this school every now and then to give you the whole thing, so that you can't graduate. Let me think. Oh yes, for example, I spend some money to buy a street girl outside, let her come to the school to make trouble, pregnant with your child and so on. In order to expand the influence, I then spend a little bit of money to give you the newspaper. Do you think the school will be so for you so much a waste of actually not so important to go down to protect you? Song Yu's face went pale, and in an instant there was no more blood color. These assumptions above were just Xiao Chusheng scaring him, just to avoid this guy pestering Lin Shi again like in his previous life. To let the current Xiao Chusheng deal with him like this, it definitely can't be done. There is no money in his hands, and no resources in his hands. But it won't be for long. Of course, if you have to use disgusting methods to deal with this guy, it is not impossible to do, just a little trouble. Song Yu at this moment has no longer before the arrogance and madness, scared voice or shivering. Brother, big brother, please let me go, okay? I guarantee that I will never dare again. I feel far away from Lin Shi. No, I will never appear in front of her again, okay? Xiao Chusheng spoke to him in a very low voice, so the onlookers didn't know what they were talking about. But seeing Song Yu suddenly goaded into this state, the hearts of the crowd shook wildly. What in the world had happened? Chapter 45 Settlement? What's going on? What happened to him? I don't know, why did he suddenly concede? Everyone whispered, but the person concerned Song Yu was regardless, kneeling in front of Xiao Chusheng cried bitterly, or still care about his image? He is shameless, is Puxin, but not really bullish In the face of more than his scoundrel, more than his shameless, more than his ruthless villain, he is a brother in a brother. Xiao Chusheng had to admit that some means, although against morality, and even a little illegal. But that is really good to use. Because some dogs are drilling the legal loophole, the law in the protection of good people at the same time actually also in the protection of scum. This is an undeniable fact. So deal with these dog things, is the means again how to lack of virtue, that is not too much. Xiao Chusheng kicked him in disgust and told him not to touch himself. Get lost, if you still dare to appear in front of my family sure, I don't mind letting you feel what I just said. Once these words came out, Song Yu was like an amnesty, stumbled and stumbled, woefully got up and wanted to leave in a hurry. Today he can be said to have lost all his face, but just climbed up, but his legs were soft, and the whole person fell again. Until the people left, the melon-eating crowd began to gradually disperse. However, there were still some people who stayed behind to curiously look at the three of them. There was no way, no matter if it was Lin Shi or the idiot beauty, they were all first-class big beauties. Especially Chi Sugo, this idiot, because she looks too anxious, so all thought that this guy is a freshman's sister, or outside the school to come it. There are even bold, jumping up, want to come up to ask for Chi Sugo's contact information. There are even some who are bold enough to come up and ask for his contact information, but they are only hesitating. It's not because this guy is a high-cool face to others, full of written on the face of the 4 words, do not approach the stranger. Where can anyone think that this guy is a social terrorism? Xiao Chusheng lazily ignored these guys, patted Lin Shi's shoulder, go get something, take it and we will go. Lin Shi is still a bit of a trance, heard Xiao Chusheng words back to God, a light sound, this time finally went upstairs. It was also because Lin Shi's departure that Xiao Chusheng noticed that there was a girl not far away. That's right, it was precisely Zhuan who had just chased Lin Shi downstairs. This person Xiao Chusheng was acquainted with, and they had dealt with each other a few times in their previous lives. It could be said that Zhuan was the girl who had the best relationship with Lin Shi, especially during the period when Lin Shi was being bloodsucked by her adoptive parents. Zhuan often paid out of her own pocket to treat Lin Shi to meals in different ways. For this reason, she had relieved Lin Shi of a lot of pressure, and Xiao Chusheng had heard all these things from Lin Shi later on. Therefore, his current opinion of Zhuan was extremely favorable. Of course, that was only in his heart, he could only pretend not to recognize Zhuan on his face. Because he had learned to be smart now, he had to be careful not to expose his identity as a reborn person. Until Zhu Wen took the initiative to talk to Xiao Chusheng. Are you sure's boyfriend? Xiao Chusheng didn't admit or deny, but asked Zhu Wen, you are? Lin Shi's classmate? I'm her roommate, on the top bunk. Zhu Wen answered very proudly, but also asked Xiao Chusheng with a bad smile on his face, is it very envious? Xiao Chusheng did not hold back and rolled his eyes, this Zhu Wen actually still a little dirty character? In his previous life, he had dealt with her less often, and hadn't really paid attention to it. But thinking about it, it was normal. By the time Xiao Chusheng got to know Zhu Wen, Lin Shi was already depressed. It could be said that the atmosphere was heavy at that time, unlike now, when Zhu Wen just wanted to liven up the atmosphere not even at the right time. After that, Lin Shi was almost inseparable from Xiao Chusheng, and she hadn't seen Zhu Wen a few times in total. The most impressive one was at Lin Shi's class reunion several years after she graduated from college in her previous life. Zhu Wen asked Xiao Chusheng what he thought of Lin Shi. Was he going to hang on to her like that? At that time, Xiao Chusheng was silent, and in his heart he had actually been inclined to go together with Lin Shi. But Zheng Jie's side is ultimately the white moonlight that has been together since the student era, although the relationship has long existed in name only, but he is not willing. So that day he was in a heavy mood and drank a lot of wine, which was the day he got drunk and rolled in bed with Lin Shi in a daze. Looking back now, Xiao Chusheng still feels a little trance. So now facing Zhu Wen's flirting, Xiao Chusheng's first reaction was shock, then he killed back, that naturally not envious. I don't know what to say, but I don't know. You do not envy? Shi and I are bunk beds, we can be together every day. No, you can't. Xiao Chusheng was very domineering and proudly said, because she will be with me every day. I'm not going to be able to do that. Zhu Wen also reacted at this moment, You're going to bring Lin Shi to move outside the school? This is kind of it. Xiao Chusheng was not in a good position to pick up on this, so he let her misinterpret it. While the two were talking, Zhu Wen noticed this dumbass beauty following Xiao Chusheng. This guy's ruthless scene of copying a Coke bucket and ramming Song Yu without a fight was naturally seen by her, plus Chi Sancho's appearance of being uninviting and unapproachable. So in Zhu Wen's eyes, this idiot was simply a heroine. If Xiao Chusheng knew what was in this guy's heart, he was afraid that he would have to spray on the spot. Good guy really dare to think. Still a heroine? This is? Zhu Wen probed and asked. Can follow Xiao Chusheng together to come? Zhu Wen is not a strange direction to think, such as Xiao Chusheng feet stepping on two boats and so on. This kind of thing was still too exciting for a clear and stupid female college student who was still in the ivory tower. She Sansui, she is. Not waiting for Xiao Chusheng to make up a suitable identity, Lin Shi had already come downstairs with a large bag of clothes. So many? Several people were stunned. While Lin Shi scratched her head in embarrassment, they are all changes of clothes, and the next few months are also in there. A few months? Zhu Wen's face was odd, isn't the summer vacation in a few days? You brought so many? Xiao Chusheng and Shi Sanshan were equally puzzled by this. Lin Shi smiled awkwardly and explained, isn't it because you guys are here? I thought I'd bring it along, so I wouldn't have to come back for it next week when I'm on vacation. After all, I can't take a lot by myself. Oh. Xiao Chusheng came to his senses, this reason is very reasonable. Only Zhu Wen was confused by what she heard, but she caught the key word in Lin Shi's words, wait a minute. Sure, where are you going? Aren't you coming back to class after summer vacation? Lin Shi was also stunned by the question and shook her head in confusion, no, I'm definitely coming back to class. Then what are these clothes of yours? Oh, these although I come back to class, but from now on probably will not live in the school, the next long time in addition to the class, I may almost always stay in Hangzhou. In that case, Zhu Wen breathed a sigh of relief after hearing that. But she was suddenly stunned and her voice rose 3 octaves, what? You're going to settle in Hangzhou? Chapter 46 I chose my own way of living, and I won't regret it. Half an hour later, Xiao Chusheng and the 3 women came to a hot pot restaurant near the Academy of Finance. Lin Shi shrugged off all kinds of things, but Xiao Chusheng didn't give her a chance to refuse and forced her to come over. At noon Lin Shi was packing her clothes in the dormitory, but she ended up being blocked in the dormitory by Song Yu with his men. She did ask Zhu Wen to bring her rice, but Song Yu's men knew Zhu Wen and immediately guessed who Zhu Wen's rice was for. That's why it was snatched away by Song Yu when they were downstairs, trying to use it to force Lin Shi to go downstairs. Thinking of these, Zhu Wen was so angry that she shivered, Song Yu, that kind of man is too disgusting, really damned. Okay Wen, why are you still talking about him? Lin Shi calmed down the indignant Zhu Wen. I don't think it's necessary to bring me along to dinner, right? Zhuan is actually a bit embarrassed. After all, they are boyfriend and girlfriend together. She is an outsider is not appropriate. It's okay, you usually so take care of Shishir, should be invited to you only right, but unfortunately my next time to Shanghai do not know when it is today to catch up with the coincidence. Xiao Chusheng spoke calmly. The guy smiled and made a gesture of reparation. You don't mind this mealtime even if it's good after all, you've already eaten at noon. Shuan quickly waved her hand. It won't be, besides it's almost 4 o'clock now, our school eats dinner at 6 o'clock. Xiao Chusheng nodded, his eyes unconsciously softened a few points as his line of sight fell on Linshir, who was eating shabu shabu. Then look at the idiot beauty next to him. This guy obviously ate a boxed lunch at noon, but the result is that he is constantly stuffing his mouth with tripe, cheeks are bulging, like a hamster. Well, this guy is a complete foodie. Coupled with the noon boxed lunch really does not taste good, Xiao Chusheng will not spit on her. On the contrary, Zhu Wen's small eyes looked at Linshir from time to time, and then at Chi Sanso from time to time, the fire of gossip burning in her eyes. But everyone tacitly avoided these questions. Oh yes, a certain fool simply didn't have the extra brain to think about this. Speaking of which, sure, you're going to Hangzhou and not coming back? Zhu Wen asked curiously. Linshir, who was eating, froze when she heard this and gave Zhu Wen a disgusted look. I have classes to attend, how can I not come back? Ah yes. Actually, Zhu Wen had a lot of questions she wanted to ask, but she just didn't know what to ask because there were so many. The guy ate 2 shrimps and then aimed at Xiao Chusheng. That Xiao Chusheng? Well, yes, my mama's surname is Chu, my dad's surname is Xiao, the two illiterates come together and directly give me a whole little beast. Puffing. His self-black to the 3 women are whole laugh, can only say that the old Xiao and the old Chu comrade is going to name. However, Xiao Chusheng did use what he did to carry out his name to the point that describing him as an animal was just complimenting him. Zhu Wen laughed so hard that it was hard to stop laughing, wiped her tears, and asked about the main event. So that Xiao Chusheng, you go to school in Hangzhou? He inquired about Xiao Chusheng's status. Linshir in her relationship is quite good, so she has to check for Linshir. After all, in her opinion, Linshir is going far away to chase love in Hangzhou, which is called backward. What if Xiao Chusheng's character is not good? Xiao Chusheng looked at Linshir, and as a result, Linshir's eyes were also filled with bewilderment. Obviously about him, Linshir hadn't said much to Zhu Wen. Well, but it won't be long before I'm probably alumni with you guys, Xiao Chusheng was frank. After all, there was no need to hide it. When he went to school in Shanghai, he would all know by then. Zhu Wen was stunned, her head full of questions. What do you mean? Cough 1-1, I'm older than him, he won't come to our school until some time later. Linshir didn't have the face to look at it, so she could only rush out to explain. Zhu Wen's voice suddenly rose. In the dormitory, I was going to tell you about it and then I was interrupted by Songyu. Linshir said awkwardly. Zhu Wen's small eyes greatly confused, recalled, seems to be the case. No wonder how she asked, this Linshir seems to be a speechless expression, feelings because she is an old cow eat young grass? No, Linshir is only 3 years older, so this should be called a woman's eldest 3, holding a golden brick? After knowing Xiao Chusheng's bottom line, Zhu Wen looked at him with complicated eyes. Such a little boy actually picked up the goddess of the finance academy? This kid was something. Zhu Wen not only didn't belittle Xiao Chusheng because of his young age, but on the contrary, she gained a few more points of gravity. In her opinion, this kid definitely had something very human, otherwise with a capital like Linshir, why would she follow him? However, these were not things she could ask. Zhu Wen could only silently hide them in her heart, intending to try and find out later when she had the chance. Alright, Wen, let me tell you my cell phone number, if there is anything you can call me. Linshir suddenly remembered and hurriedly wrote one to Zhu Wen. Zhu Wen was a little surprised. You bought a cell phone? It's not mine to borrow. While speaking, Linshir subconsciously looked at the idiot beauty. It turned out that this guy was eating with pleasure, his lips were full of red oil, rather like a feeling of flaming red lips. This guy was a bit slow, completely ignoring what they were saying over here. Should I say she was simple or clean? Facing Chi Sugo, Linshir had a complicated mood. After finishing the meal, both sides left in different directions. Zhu Wen went back to school, while Xiao Chusheng's trio was planning to go back to Hangzhou. Before leaving, Zhu Wen pulled Linshir to one side and whispered something. As for the content, it was to urge Linshir to pay attention to safety. Although she had a good impression of Xiao Chusheng, and Xiao Chusheng was able to come all the way from Hangzhou to protect Linshir for her, it was evident that Linshir had a position in Xiao Chusheng's heart. Right, there's something I didn't have the heart to ask just now. Zhu Wen suddenly lowered her voice. He's a student from Hangzhou, How do you guys know each other? This. Lin's sure expression is also a stagnation. This matter is a bit mysterious. She even said Zhuan will not believe. After all, this guy suddenly appeared and came up to adopt himself. Should I say it was romantic or abstract? Seeing that Lin sure didn't say anything, Zhuan felt that she might have asked something private, so she changed her words. I won't ask about this, but what's the deal with that girl with you guys? I always feel that their relationship is not normal. Dangerous question again. Lin sure only felt as if her throat was being strangled. In the end, she could only squeeze out a smile. Okay, win-win, just don't ask. This is the way I chose to live, I won't regret it. Zhuan was also stunned by these words, but after she reacted, her mind seemed like lightning. Lin sure kind of answered the question, but it seemed like she answered everything. Chapter 47. What bad thoughts can a fool have? From a distance, she looked at Lin Shure's figure as she left with Xiao Chusheng, with a Qi Sangsan following beside her. Obviously a threesome, this scene was exceptionally harmonious and piercing. Xu Wen felt a sense of injustice in her heart. But there are some things she is not a party to, not qualified to comment, can only silently bless Lin Shure in her heart, hoping that her choice is correct. This is not the direction to the train station, is it? Lin Shure thought that Xiao Chusheng had taken the wrong way, so she reminded him. Unbeknownst to her, Xiao Chusheng was more familiar with Shanghai than she was. Hey, not wrong, I go by the way to buy something. Xiao Chusheng explained. Buy something? Xiao Chusheng nodded. Well, Shanghai to come once quite difficult, I thought to come, on the way to buy some crayfish back. Crayfish? What is that? Lin Shure has never seen. This is quite normal, the country generally began to eat this thing, in fact, 10 years later. Before that, many places even used the crayfish to feed pigs, the price is horribly low. Hangzhou later became the so-called new first-tier cities, but at the moment is still at most a second-tier, crayfish almost never seen. So Xiao Chusheng think this thing may have a head start, but not sure. So he thought to buy some by the way back to sell to see, if you cannot sell, then eat yourself. Waiting for the largest aquatic market, the three of them wandered for a long time before finding one with this thing. Seeing Xiao Chusheng actually wanting to buy this thing, the human boss still couldn't believe it. Can only say that the market for this thing has not opened, and so in a few years this thing has become the king of the night market. The nation's shrimp fields can be eaten out of stock, those who collect shrimp plus money cannot collect goods. The reason why Xiao Chusheng hit the idea to this thing, mainly or it is cheap. With the latter day to eat a caddy to dozens compared to 7 years to buy a caddy of live shrimp is less than $4, the profit in this think about drooling. Unlike oysters, crayfish can be cooked and sold in advance. In other words, it is not like oysters must be made, the speed of the meal limits the revenue. The night before the stall, or at noon, to buy the shrimp fried, to the evening to take to sell. Many customers who love to eat do not even have to wait, buy, and go. This way it's equivalent to an additional source of income, no surprise, it should be feasible. Sugi carefully pinched his hand. Lin Shure saw the idiot beauty poking the shrimp for fun and was so scared that she hurriedly pulled her away. The corner of Xiao Chusheng's mouth twitched, this damn sense of vestigial vision. Why is it that the more you look at it, the more you have the illusion of a couple with a big girl? After some bargaining with the boss, Xiao Chusheng finally bought 300 pounds at a price of $3.50 a caddy. Sounds quite a lot, in fact, sell up to estimate the amount of 2 or 3 days. Of course, that is under the premise of bursting into flames. But even if you sell it slowly, it's not a big problem. If you freeze it, you can at least freeze it for 10 days and half a month without any problem. This was what he had in mind, so in the end, he had the boss divided into several boxes that were easy to move and pack them up. Looking at the 5 foam boxes packed up, Xiao Chusheng scratched his head. It seems like a little bit of buying too much from Shanghai to Hangzhou, a little bit far. I will help you. Lin Shure silently moved up 2 foam boxes, still barely. She just wanted to go and insist on moving the third one, but the result was taken away by Xiao Chusheng. 2 is already the limit, I'll take these. But when Xiao Chusheng himself was ready to move the remaining 3 foam boxes, a certain stupid beauty suddenly picked up one. This guy was the least strong of the 3, but there was nothing wrong with holding one. Xiao Chusheng even confirmed this. What's wrong with you holding it, right? Chi Sugo even nodded his head, beeping his little mouth very stubborn look, oddly cute. So 3 people 5 boxes, inexplicably have a kind of unspeakable harmony. Yeah. On the train, Lin Shure suddenly let out a cry of surprise, causing the passengers in the entire carriage to subconsciously look over. Lin Shure red face, lowered his head and lowered his voice to ask Xiao Chusheng, we are all here, who is going to pick up the oysters? Don't worry about it. Xiao Chushang was happy. I considered it before I came, so I used Chi Sancho's cell phone to call that supervisor to explain the situation, and he will come over a little later at that time. If we go back too late, it will be handed over to Chen Bin. Lin Shi was relieved. This is good. Xiao Chushang was glad that he asked for contact information with that supervisor that day, otherwise it would have been quite troublesome. As for Chen Bin's side, it was certainly a bit difficult to get in touch, but he had said that he would go to protect Lin Shi every afternoon, so it was likely that he would be guarding the vicinity of Qi Sanchuang's house. Perhaps it was because of the tiring journey. Qi Sanchuang, this idiot, got on the car and was sleepy. Not a moment later, he fell asleep on Xiao Chushing's shoulder. Lin Shi, just against the chin, silently looked at her sleeping face, pondering. I don't know how long. Lin Shi suddenly opened his mouth and asked Xiao Chusheng, this child is actually like you, right? Xiao Chusheng was silent, not wanting to escape, but not knowing how to answer. I don't know. In the end, Xiao Chusheng honestly said, she is a bit dull, but also simple, not much of a heart, so whether she knows what it means to like, it may not even be easy to say. Lin Shi was also silent. She knew that what Xiao Chusheng said was the truth. In Qi Sanzhou, there was a cleanliness and purity that was hard to see. Xiao Chusheng raised his hand and touched the hair of the idiot beauty that was resting on his shoulder, and lamented from the bottom of his heart, this guy actually knows quite a lot of things. Oh yes, in fact, using what you said about being naturally dull is also right. She's just a dumbass. What kind of bad thoughts can a dumbass have? Both of them were quietly looking at the sleeping Qi Sansui. Her situation was well known to both of them. In terms of that, Lin Shi and her should be considered to be of the same kind. Although the encounters were of different types, they were actually similar. Both were poor people who did not have family members to love them. Xiao Chusheng narrowed his eyes slightly and took a deep breath before he narrated, I'm actually not too important to her whether I like her or not, or what kind of feelings. After a pause, before he continued, like a drowning person saw the straw, she just grabbed it by instinct. The young girl who has no one to love, met a special boy, the boy, although the surface looks bad, but did not really bully her. The special person approached her lonely life, so she greedily enjoyed the feeling that someone could be there for her. No matter what love is, that's just how it is. In fact, you noticed it long ago, didn't you? Xiao Chusheng smiled and asked Lin Shi rhetorically, she was also defenseless against you, and actually took you as someone similar to me. Lin Shi's expression changed, only to feel her heart clogging up. Well, to her, me and you, we're probably like family, right? Lin Shi smiled to herself. Yes, we are family. Xiao Chusheng's voice was low and firm. Chapter 48, Enabling the Second Program. It was almost 7 o'clock in the evening when we returned to Hangzhou, so Xiao Chusheng and the others still grabbed the time to go to the idiot beauty's house to get the barbecue car out. Wouldn't it be a bit monotonous to have just these things today? Lin Shi looked at the things in the window of the barbecue truck with some concern. Indeed, it's a bit less, but things come from an emergency. Xiao Chusheng helplessly explained. In fact, these things are all bought in Shanghai when buying crayfish, a large piece of lamb, as well as part of the finished skewers. Arriving at the place, Chen Bin, several people have already waited there. Boss, I received your oysters for you. Chen Bin saw Xiao Chusheng and hurriedly greeted him. Xiao Chusheng nodded, hard work, today I had a temporary thing, went to Shanghai and came back late. With Chen Bin's intimidation of these spiritual boys yesterday, no one dares to occupy this piece of land at all. Xiao Chusheng inexplicably has a kind of illusion that he has become a side of the ground snake. The black sweep will not sweep me, right? Xiao Chusheng had a complicated mood. The stall was set up in a hurry, and with the aroma of the garlic and the roasted oysters and the scent of the temporary skewered lamb kebabs spreading in the park, there were soon customers who smelled the smell and came. Big pants and flip-flops are the standard for the residents here. Boss, you're quite late today, I thought you weren't coming out today when I first arrived. This is a repeat customer, this is the third day over. Xiao Chusheng greeted with a smile, something came late, no surprise, as long as the weather is not too bad, should be out of the stall. This way, that's good, I'm good you hear this mouth oysters, I see other stalls are not. Well, it's not easy to get them, but I'll put some new ones on tomorrow, so you can come and try them. The uncle who was waiting for the oysters to be roasted brightened up, there are new products? Yes, but I'm not sure if it will sell well on our side, but it's delicious for sure. Xiao Chusheng said with a smile. Oh? Then I have to look forward to it, can you say what it is in advance? The uncle looked greedy. Xiao Chusheng also did not hide, anyway, tomorrow out of the stall we'll have crayfish, spicy fried, especially fragrant, is a little less meat, cannot eat spicy, probably not too good. Oh, I've seen that before. I've seen that before, it's quite good, but with less meat. Boss, you're a gourmet, you've actually eaten it before. But boss, your stall is a bit short today, is there enough to sell? He pulled open the window to pick out something like leeks to go with it, only to find that there were only a few. Back late, just let someone go to get, but it is hard to say how many there can be. Xiao Chusheng was also helpless. He let Qinbin took a few people with money to those who have not closed the supermarket, food market to see what else, how much to buy some back to fill the door. Although the price of food in the supermarket is expensive, but when the barbecue is sold there is still a profit to earn, then nothing to sell strong. Just this time freshness is the problem, so he asked Qinbin must not by those people pick the rest of the rotten vegetables back. While Xiao Chusheng was here to greet the guests, Lin Shi and Foolish Beauty both had their hands full skewering mutton on the side. It had already been cut in advance at Foolish Beauty's house before coming, and marinated in a secret sauce on the way. It's the reverse of the usual steps, but it doesn't affect anything, it's just going to leave the two women with paste all over their hands. You two be careful, don't be in a hurry to tie your hands. Xiao Chusheng admonished the two. After all, before Chi Sanshuang this idiot pain whimpering scene is still vivid in my mind. I know. Chen Bin and the others brought some vegetables back and washed them before coming. This makes Xiao Chusheng cannot help but look at this guy. Do not look at this guy, usually look uneducated, just no fights bubble internet cafe. This mind is quite meticulous. Thinking of this, Xiao Chusheng felt that Chen Bin was worth cultivating, so he called him over. Binzi, you come over, look at my maneuver. He called Chen Bin over and taught Chen Bin to bake. This trip to Shanghai made Xiao Chusheng realize one thing: relying on him alone was still too far-fetched. Even now he was still only at a stage of raw capital accumulation. To put it plainly, selling energy for startup capital. After all, if you don't want to suffer, you want to make money, that's impossible. The world is so, risk, suffering, always have to have, what do not want to pay also want a good life. Does not exist. But he can change his mindset, is to take advantage of these people. Chen Bin. Originally he was planning to wait until a month after the first original capital and then enable them, but now it seems to have to advance. So Xiao Chusheng taught Chen Bin while he went to string up those dishes he brought. Learn a little, when you learn almost, I may let you guys take over for me from time to time for a few days. Xiao Chusheng told Chen Bin. Chen Bin didn't have any objections to this. You are the boss, of course you have the final say. According to this speed, in a few days they can have a few tens of thousands of dollars in their hands. All of this money is used to engage in barbecue stalls, certainly do not use up. Money cannot stay in the hand, money is the king of money. So Xiao Chusheng decided to Lin Shi and then add another cost: does not need two high stalls, do not seek to have more money, as long as there is almost profit on the line. This stall he decided to let Chen Bin and others to operate. He told the idea to Chen Bin: capital and technology one come out, you daily in accordance with my requirement stalls, and then 40% of the daily profit to you, how to allocate your own decision. Chen Bin was flattered. Xiao Chusheng said as a month after the start of their wages, but never thought happiness actually comes so fast. His several brought a little brother is also a stunned face. 40% of how much, they are not clear. But Xiao Chusheng, this barbecue stall, how hot they see in the eyes, his means of making money they absolutely believe. My requirements for you are just a few: first of all, obedient, and secondly, give me to abide by the rules. Remember, this world is no longer rely on the fight can solve the problem, to rely on the brain to earn legal and compliant money. Of course, there must be someone to see you make money will also be I read, the handbacks certainly also have to fight back, understand? Got it. A few spiritual guys in unison, scared many guests. But Chen Bin, these people did not do anything, plus now the security is not compared to the latter days, there are a few gangsters on the street can be too normal. No one felt anything. Next a few more days, we will not be too tired. Xiao Chusheng said softly to Lin Shi. Lin Shi nodded and answered. Only after the kebabs were skewered and the stall was operating normally did Xiao Chusheng breathe a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it was too tight to come over at 7 o'clock, but he couldn't help but mutter as he looked at the long queue of customers, today's turnover might not have too much of an impact. Chapter 49: One Big and One Small. Two Beauties live advertisement. Throwing the stall to Lin Shi first, a certain stupid beauty also stayed there to help. Although Chi Sanshan was a bit stupid, she could still do some things. Xiao Chusheng, on the other hand, went back to the idiot beauty's house, and he planned to take advantage of this to take care of the crayfish. Otherwise wait until the closing of the stalls and then get done. It should be 1 a.m, no surprise this evening Lao Xiao and Lao Chu comrades will go home, so he cannot stay out until too late. Crayfish processing is actually considered more laborious. If possible, he actually preferred to sell frozen shrimp tails directly. But that thing 07 is really hard to find, can only say what is there to sell it. But although the whole shrimp is more trouble to deal with, but the profit margin to be a little higher. With the shoe brush bought from the convenience store, Xiao Chuxing opened tap water pipe ruthlessly scrubbing these crayfish. But wanting to handle 300 pounds in such a short time was obviously far-fetched. So it took more than an hour for him to handle more than 10 pounds. I fucking this thing to deal with so laborious? He was numb. This thing is delicious, and the profit is not low, but it is just too laborious. Xiao Chuxing had actually given up the idea of relying on crayfish to make extra money. After all, human resources are limited. But he thought against his chin, it is possible to let Shinbin those people to help. A few people together should be quite fast. With the prepared chile, 13 spices, beer, simply fried the more than 10 pounds of crayfish. Because of the consideration if too spicy maybe some guests cannot accept, he did not dare to put too much chili. Also based on this consideration, he decided to get 2% garlic shrimp to see how to sell. After frying, he packed more than 10 pounds of lobster in a clean bucket and carried it to the park, and bought 2 portions of rice on the way. Dizzy until now, both he and Lin sure hadn't eaten yet, but it was a certain stupid beauty who had already eaten a lot of kebabs. Every day this stall had tens of pieces that went into this guy's stomach. However, Xiao Chuxing does not care about this, he is not bad, not to mention that in the future this thing is still the child's mother. Is it a problem to feed the child's mother? No problem. Come and try it, I fried a little first. Xiao Chuxing lifted the lid of the bucket, and immediately a fresh flavor unique to crustaceans permeated around the stall. Xiao Chuxing peeled a few crayfish for Linshi, learn it, right? Grab the head, a twist and then a tug, pull the shrimp line, and you can eat it. Feed her to her mouth, Linshi chewed up, her eyes are getting brighter and brighter, delicious eh? Xiao Chuxing nodded, this thing can become the king of the night market in the latter part of the world certainly has its own reasons. Although the meat is small, but the flavor is really needless to say. Although many people think that eating crayfish is eating the flavor of the seasoning, but the actual use of the same seasoning to deal with ordinary shrimp is not at all. A certain idiot beauty couldn't wait to come over and also wanted Xiao Chuxing to feed her. Xiao Chuxing had no choice but to peel a few for her and feed them to her mouth. Well, you've learned how to peel and eat it yourself, you guys eat, I'll take care of the guests first. After saying that, Xiao Chuxing took Lin Shi's place and let her and the idiot beauty eat first. A big small two beauties, holding a bucket of shrimp eat simply cannot stop. The two women straight hissed and hissed, that was being spicy. But the spicier it was, the more they wanted to eat. So the two of them became a living advertisement just like when they were selling oysters. The guests lined up in front of the stall had long smelled the flavor, and their mouths were furiously secreting. Someone couldn't help but ask Xiao Chuxing, boss, don't you have any plans to sell this shrimp? Xiao Chuxing was also asked, can sell is that this is not yet set a good price, I plan to start tomorrow to take over to sell. So? Then about what price? It's hard to say, have to 2031 it, is the appearance of 1020? Xiao Chuxing roughly eyeballed some. It seems to be okay? The people who asked actually didn't think it was expensive. Xiao Chuxing think about it also think understandable, one thing this thing now do not see the sale, two here is Hangzhou, the price itself is on the high side. Furthermore, the crayfish look quite big, dozens and dozens of 20 listen to the bluff. In reality, when they go to eat will find that the part that can actually eat so little. A dozen or so pure meat is estimated to be only 2 bites of the amount, belonging to the visual deception. So really want to rely on this to eat full, a person can dazzle off several pounds. In addition to Lin Shi and the idiot beauty to eat, that bucket of shrimp in no time was coaxed to finish, because it is not good pricing, Xiao Chuxing sold at a price of $1 a piece. If the price is too low, it won't be this price from tomorrow. These guests can also understand this. You guys can also taste it. Xiao Chuxing signaled Chen Bin and the rest of them to go and eat too as well. They have been watching from the side for a while now, and they are also curious about what flavor it tastes like, and how it smells so good. When they really ate it in their mouths, they became enlightened. Shenbin couldn't help but praise, boss, as far as you do this flavor, it will definitely sell a lot. Xiao Chuxing sighed helplessly, that's for sure, it's just that although this thing sells well, it's not easy to make, I was planning to let you guys help with it in a while. That is definitely no problem. Chen Bin immediately agreed. 300 pounds, letting all these brothers of his help with it, it could be done in 2 hours. As for frying it up, that would be easy. The idiot beauty had a big freezer at home, so when Chen Bin and the others finished washing it, they would just freeze it in. So Xiao Chusheng took Shin Bin and they went to Chi Sancho's home to get the rest of those shrimp, told them how much they can wash, how much to wash. Sent back at the close of the stall, Shin Bin very obediently take people away. He himself is back to finish the last shift, 11:30 time with Chen Bin their washed shrimp back to Chi Sugo side. After counting the turnover, all three of them were a bit dumbfounded. Although there are crayfish money in it, but this is actually almost the same as yesterday? Xiao Chusheng was all confused. Maybe it was because the oysters had made a name for themselves? It attracted a lot of new customers. Lin Shi tried to analyze, although we came over at 7 o'clock, the peak of business was actually after 8 o'clock. Xiao Chusheng thought against his chin, it makes sense. Do you really want to sell the crawfish? Lin Shi is a little worried, the benefits are delicious, but the meat is too little, in addition to the center of the meat, pincers, legs, cannot squeeze out something. Xiao Chusheng heard cannot help but happy, this question many businessmen have had, but in the end were severely hit in the face, it is very unreasonable. You wait and see, sell certainly can sell, is too tired. Xiao Chusheng explains his own considerations, look at the market reaction and then decide to eat more people than let Shin Bin's people to help do that, but also that way then give up. See, Xiao Chusheng said so, she also has no opinion. Chapter 50. Your sister saw you and the girls coming out of the hotel. When it was time, Xiao Chusheng was ready to go home, and Lin Shi subconsciously followed. Ah yes, you can stay at Chi Sansan's house today. Xiao Chusheng then remembered, and told Lin Shi, my father and my mom are expected to go back today. Ah. Lin Shi and the idiot beauty on the side were both shaken. When he went out from the house of this idiot, Xiao Chusheng didn't go home immediately, but went to find Shin Bin. This guy was helping him deal with those crayfish in the backyard of the nearby black internet cafe, and the last £100 or so had almost been dealt with by the time he passed. It is true that there are many people to do a good job. Boss, you came. Shin Bin greeted him with a smiling face. Xiao Chusheng nodded his head, light him, a moment to deal with the first frozen in the internet cafe boss here, give him a few $dozen as a reward, too late for your boss's wife, they have slept, do not go to disturb. Shin Bin quickly said no, I have room in my home refrigerator, I bring it back just fine. Xiao Chusheng had no opinion, so he answered, in fact, he was just on Shin Bin's defense. Although he felt that Shin Bin would not do anything to dig his own grave, but after all, under his hand is just a bunch of punks with little vision, not everyone is so trustworthy. If he wanted to screen out his men who were worth cultivating and trusting, he would definitely need some time in the meantime. After settling Shin Bin, Xiao Chusheng turned his head back to his home. As expected, downstairs, he saw the lights on at home, old comrade Xiao really went home. Silently went upstairs, opened the door and saw old comrade Xiao watching TV. Bastard, how come you are back so late? Although the old Xiao's tone carried a reprimanding tone, his face was covered with love. Hearing his father's voice, Xiao Chusheng's body subconsciously stagnated. Since his return from Rebirth, this was the first time he had seen his father in person. Unlike his previous life after more than 10 years, the current old Xiao did not have so many gray hairs on his head. To be honest, Xiao Chusheng didn't have too many emotions other than some feelings. Perhaps it was because he didn't have too many regrets about his parents in his previous life. After all, although he had suffered in his previous life, in the end, he was considered to have become a human being in the eyes of his parents. However, Xiao Chusheng clearly remembered that when he started his own business, the startup capital was all given by Comrade Lao Xiao, and later on, when his career was hindered, it was also Comrade Lao Xiao who took out his own private stash of small treasury to give him a transit. Thinking of this, Xiao Chusheng revealed a smile. Old Xiao, how you can afford to go home? Brat, what do you call words? I cannot go back to my own home? Old Comrade Xiao boarded a face, very unhappy look. Father and son just said a few words. Mother Chu Qing walked out from the bedroom and hugged Xiao Chusheng. Son, did you miss mom? No. Xiao Chusheng straightened up, causing the old comrade Chu to ravage his hair in anger. His family atmosphere has always been quite good, or else he would not have had the opportunity to succeed in his entrepreneurial path in his previous life. Generally speaking, the parents' vision determined the heights that the children were likely to reach. If a different parent heard that their child was going to start a business in the era of the internet economy, which had already become a Red Sea, their legs might have been broken. How was your evening meal? Are you hungry? Chu Qing has always favored Xiao Chusheng since he was a child. Of course, this has something to do with the fact that Xiao Chusheng knows enough. I've eaten, it's late, I'm going to wash up and go to bed. Xiao Chusheng changed the topic. In his impression, he didn't know when he started, the number of times he met with his parents became very few. Because the family needs a lot of expenses, college, marriage, so old Xiao resigned from the state-owned enterprises, opened a small restaurant on their own. Business is quite good, better than in the state-owned enterprises. Although the state-owned enterprises are stable, but basically not much room for advancement, especially now or in 2007. Resignation before the old Xiao a month to hand at most 5,000, and open the hotel put aside a variety of expenses, the net profit of an average of 20,000 out of the head. However, this figure compared to Xiao Chuxing's recent business can seem much inferior. Of course, these cannot tell parents even how to make money. They will definitely ask Xiao Chuxing to focus on his studies, make money, and what to wait for graduation. This is pretty much the same in the eyes of most parents. However, that is the ideal situation. The truth is that opportunities never wait for anyone. Windfalls are never there for you just because you didn't get on. If you wait until you're ready, the yellow flowers and vegetables are all cold. Wash out, the old Xiao suddenly came to say. Right, Brad, are you talking about someone? I'm not sure I'm ready. A sentence to him dry, a little confused, looking for where there is something wrong. Wait a minute, in his previous life, Lao Xiao knew that he was in love, and that was a long time later. Now how does he know? Xiao Chuxing subconsciously thought that Lao Xiao was talking about Zhang Jia, because in his previous life, he and Zhang Jia were in love, and they had been dating for more than a year before they let the two old men know. Could it be the butterfly effect of being reborn? Xiao Chuxing thought so, but he still did not move to ask Lao Xiao, "This you heard from where?" Old Xiao also did not hide. "Have Rong, that girl came to the store this afternoon, said. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that." Xiao Yurong, Xiao Chuxing's cousin, is the daughter of Lao Zhao's younger brother's family, and attends the 6th middle school. Because the 6th middle school is close to the place where the old Xiao opened his store, so she often went over to eat. Just Xiao Chuxing suspicious. Where did she hear about it? She is 6th form, say words have credibility? No wonder Xiao Chuxing skeptical. Mainly in his previous life, he this time note he did not tell Xiao Yurong he was chasing Zhang Jia. What's more, after he was reborn, he was no longer involved with Zhang Jia directly, so it's even more impossible to know. Something was wrong. There was definitely something wrong. However, old Xiao said, "Right, aren't I asking you what's going on? If I were really sure, why would I ask you? She said that one morning on the way to school, saw you and a girl from the couple hotel out, but she herself also doubt whether it is a mistake." Xiao Chuxing only felt a thump in his heart. Good guy. It was actually that day? He opened a room with this idiot Qi Sujian, actually witnessed by a relative's daughter? This was the butterfly effect of the hammer. However, Xiao Chuxing still pretended to be calm. "Oh, I said it was me, do you believe me?" Old Xiao froze for half a day, staring at Xiao Chuxing's eyes for half a day, suddenly puffed a laugh. "Still need to ask? I'm sure you don't believe me." Xiao Chuxing is skeptical. "Not you have so little confidence in your son? I'm not that bad, am I?" Although concealed from his own father, but for some reason, he inexplicably had a feeling of the heart being stabbed by a knife. Xiao Chuxing lost his soul back to the bedroom. Do not want to say a word to the old Xiao. Pain, too much pain. At the same time, at Qi Sancho's home, the two big beauties, the idiot beauty and Lin Shi, were taking a bath together, and on the surface of these two people, their relationship was really not generally good. And in reality, it was simply just that Qi Sugo was clear and stupid, with no heart at all. In the face of such a fool without any bad intentions, Lin Shi couldn't even afford to bully her. Chapter 51. Can't see the future because I see the future. The harmless fool Qi Sansui was pressed there by Lin Shi for a back rub, and due to the fact that it was too comfortable, the guy drifted off to sleep. Lin Shi couldn't help but shake her head as she looked at the guy's dopey face. "Wake up, Sugi, wake up." Only after rubbing her clean did Qi Sugo open her sleepy eyes. She subconsciously used her hand to explore her back, washed. Hearing her words, Lin Shi couldn't help but laugh. "I've rubbed it for you so much, how could it not be clean, ah?" Eyes are full of bewilderment, and only after that did she say in a small voice, "In the past, I used to wash it alone, and I couldn't reach the back of my hand. You can use those very long bath towels, the effect is still barely." Lin Shi taught her. Qi Sanso couldn't help but seriously think about the feasibility. After contacting her these days, Lin Shi gradually realized that Qi Sugo was a natural nerd without any bad intentions. Maybe it was because she lost her mother when she was very young, and both her father and stepmother treated her badly, so there were many things she lacked a bit of common sense. When Lin Shi washed herself, Qi Sugo stared straight at her, making her feel a little embarrassed. "What's the matter with you?" Lin Shi asked. "Why are you staring at me?" "Because it's a bath, two girls naked to see, although it is normal, but also cannot hold the straight hook eyes." Rubbing back? The stupid beauty Chisugi spat out 2 words. I've already cleaned it, right? Lin Sure asked subconsciously. Oh. Lin Sure was a little confused, but quickly realized, you want to help me rub my back? Chi Su-guan nodded, aha. Lin Sure couldn't help but laugh and cry. She always felt that there were some communication barriers with this child, but she just couldn't get annoyed with her. Okay, you help me wash it. After saying that, Lin Sure showed her back to Chi Sanchan with a big smile. Chi Sanchan was very clumsy, but also very hard. By the time she finished the bath, it was almost 1 in the morning. Aren't you going to rest? Lin Sure was a bit puzzled when she saw Chi Sansui lying on the sofa with the TV on. I'll just sleep here. Ah? Lin Sure froze and frowned slightly, just sleep here? Well. Lin Sure was puzzled and pursued, why don't you go back to your room? The TV is now broadcasting Andy Lau's very recognizable Hong Kong accent Chinese, golden quality, establish the world. This is one of the most brainwashing cell phone advertisements in this era, and is the root cause of the fact that Jinli used to sit on the first throne of domestic cell phones for several years. Only after entering the smartphone era, the cell phone industry suffered a reshuffle. Jinli brand gradually withdrew from the public's field of vision. A person will be afraid. Chi Sansui pointed to the TV advertisement that was playing on the TV, listen to the sound and you won't be afraid. At this moment, Lin Sure only felt like her heart was stung by something, and she couldn't help but rush over and hug this idiot tightly into her arms. Chi Sanso felt that Lin Sure was using a particularly large amount of force, which pressed her a little out of breath, and tried to struggle. But Lin Sure hugged her too tightly, so she simply gave up. Today, you can go over to me, thank you. Lin Sure attached herself to Chi Sanson's ear and thanked from the bottom of her heart. Chi Sanso did not respond, she had been alone for too long and didn't even know how to respond to the kindness that others released towards her. So she had to subconsciously hug Lin Sure as well, that was all she knew how to do. The 2 women who were in different family backgrounds but were equally miserable just snuggled up to each other like this, like they were relying on each other, and like they were licking each other's wounds. Probably, this was the mutual attraction between kindred spirits. It can only be said that Xiao Chusheng and the 2 of them, these 3 people can produce a crossover, and it cannot be said that it is unreasonable. In the future, he and we will both accompany you. Lin Sure was actually a little torn in her heart when she said this. A blush floated uncontrollably on her face, after all, saying this kind of shameful thing with another woman. This is too shy. Well. The stupid beauty was perhaps slow, or simply did not understand the meaning of Lin Sure's words, and just responded dumbly. In fact, Lin Sure wanted to ask her if she liked Xiao Chusheng, but she couldn't get the words out of her mouth. Because in Lin Sure's opinion, this question seemed to have no meaning. Hadn't she already made her decision now? Was it meaningful? What's more, perhaps it was just like Xiao Chusheng said, Chi Sanso herself wasn't clear either. She was just a drowning person subconsciously grasping for straws. In the end, Chi Sansui fell asleep in Lin Sure's arms. Lin Sure couldn't help but have a bit of a headache as she looked at the sleeping idiot beauty in her arms. Chisugo was 3 years younger than her, but in terms of size, she was quite a bit bigger than her. Bigger beauty is right. Lin Sure couldn't help but spit in her heart, really hard for me. She had gone through a lot of effort to get her into the bedroom, and Chisugo, this idiot, slept like a dead pig the entire time, not even moving. This was probably the most peaceful day she had slept in the last few years, except for that time with Xiao Chusheng at the hotel. Last time it was that animal, this time it was the big sister who slept with her. Chi Sanso is also considered to be a collection of thousands of favorites in one. Before following Xiao Chusheng to Hangzhou, Lin Sure was actually very anxious every day. There is a saying that the most desperate is actually a glimpse of the future, and a glimpse of the future is not seen. But in Lin Sure's world, she couldn't see the future at a glance. In fact, it was only because she saw the future at a glance. This kind of anxiety made her mental state has not been good, less sleep, more dreams. But just at this time, a certain young boy who came up to adopt her appeared. Just like a ray of light, it made her already desperate future collapse in an instant. So Lin Sure gave everything to Xiao Chusheng. In that case, not only was Chi Sanso, but she herself was not the same? She was still the same, like a drowning man who saw a straw and grabbed it by instinct. Even if it's just a tiny bit possible, she wants to break free from that desperate future, from that underwater. So this night Lin Sure she herself actually slept very deeply, very relieved. Coming to Hangzhou, Lin Sure had a feeling that she had already escaped that home that made her desperate. And here, she clearly did not have a home, but she had a feeling of home. Xiao Chuxing's low and firm "we are family" was simply the most melodious confession to her. In the morning, Xiao Chuxing dragged his tired body to prepare to go to school, but was stopped by old Xiao, who also woke up early. "You guys aren't on vacation yet?" Old Xiao asked suspiciously. Xiao Chuxing washed his face while subconsciously replying, "Vacation? It should be soon." This way, old Xiao against the chin thoughtfully. Xiao Chuxing was a little puzzled and wondered what was wrong with him. "Comrade Lao Xiao, what exactly do you want to express?" Xiao Chuxing suspiciously probed. "Today is Saturday." "Huh?" Chapter 52: The Mutual Redemption Between Three. Shi Xuanshan blankly looked up at the ceiling of her bedroom, and her brain, which was not quite enough, was now muddled into a piece. She seemed to be remembering how she got back to her bedroom last night, and it was like she was feeling the warm and intoxicating sensation from Lin Shi's embrace. It was like when her mother was still around. If you let Xiao Chuxing know the thoughts of this guy's heart at the moment, he definitely came to a good guy. "You really take yourself as a daughter, right?" After a while, the usual wake-up alarm sounded. Lin Shi was also woken up by this bell. She rubbed her sleepy eyes. "Are you going to school?" "Well." The two of them then reluctantly parted. Not only Chi Sugo to Lin Shi, even Lin Shi herself actually a little attached to this somewhat twisted relationship. Chi Sugo had been alone for too long, so she wanted someone she could rely on. How could Lin Shi herself not be the same? Although Xiao Chuxing could be counted, the same sex and the opposite sex were different in some cases. At least, it did differ until they could rightfully form a family between them. It could be said that it was like the three of them were redeeming each other, and the relationship between the three of them, too, had become confusing. Just as the idiot beauty was dilly-dallying about washing her face, brushing her teeth, and changing her clothes. Getting ready to go out to school soon, suddenly, the door opened. Xiao Chuxing carrying 3 breakfast cursing dog barking into the door. "Really, yesterday afternoon did not go to school. I forgot that today's Saturday. Do not have to go at all. Let me get up that big morning." Eh? Already put on a shoe of the idiot beauty of the whole person stayed in place, seems to be thinking about the authenticity of Xiao Chuxing's words. It's a pity that this guy himself is also at a loss. These days her mind is basically focused on Xiao Chuxing's dog, or else has she thought about anything else? "So you guys don't have to go to school today?" Lin Shi also washed out, a face of surprise. Sugo also thought that today to have to go to class. "You guys can really have a tacit understanding." Xiao Chuxing also froze when he heard this, and suspiciously looked at the already frozen Shi Sanso. This guy one shoe has been worn, it is obvious that he is already ready to go out. The atmosphere was a little awkward for a while, and Xiao Chuxing had to cough gently. "So what, eat? I stopped by to buy it." In fact, when he learned that he was going on vacation, he had considered going back to sleep. But on second thought, it is not easy to have 2 days off. It is better to take advantage of these 2 days to prepare more, to increase a source of income. After making up his mind, he came directly to Chi Sugo's home. Only he did not expect this side of the idiot beauty actually also so tacit understanding. The three of them sat down and ate their breakfast in small bites, soybean milk with meat buns, which is considered to be a high match in breakfast these days. The rest is either suitable for stalls or too hardcore. After eating and drinking, the three of them went out together. Because this time is considered to expand business, so Xiao Chuxing with 2 women in the black internet cafe to find the all-nighter finished Shin Bin. "Bin, bring a few people with me." Xiao Chuxing greeted Lin Bin. "Today I'm on vacation, take advantage of this opportunity, let's go get a booth now." Shin Bin looked happy. Only last night with him to say, "Today we'll give arrangements?" This boss is really fast So Chen Bin immediately called a few of his favorite men, and Xiao Chuxing went. Some of the bar users in the internet cafe who were still on good terms with Chen Bin looked at each other. That person just now called out to Brother Bin Binzi? Someone had an incredulous expression on their face. Immediately, there is a person in the know to tell the gossip that he knows. It is said that Chen Bin has recently recognized a boss. The other party is even younger than him. It should be the one just now. What the hell? Is it really true? The group of people who had just finished surfing the net had trouble believing this news. Only the person in the know just now had a confident expression. Only to see him very sure said, "If before, I am not sure, but just saw that person, I am sure that this should be true." These words immediately aroused the curiosity of others. There is a claim? Did you guys see those 2 sisters? As soon as this was said, they were all not sleepy, and nodded their heads in a hurry. "I saw them, that can be real The person in the know smiled slightly. "That's right, to be able to bring 2 of this level can be an ordinary person?" At this time, maybe people have just played with those 2 superb people for a night. The crowd was instantly enlightened, really waking up the dreamer with one word. If not this informed person reminded, they really cannot think of where to go. Because there are enough people, so the taxi on the contrary with the price of public transportation is about the same, so Xiao Chuxing directly stopped the cab, told Chen Bin to go to the place, so that Chen Bin their own also stop a follow-up. Before and after the difference of less than 5 minutes to the place where Xiao Chuxing engaged in that barbecue car, this time he intends to get a specially used to sell fried things mobile food truck. Of course, is the kind of small. This kind of actually still store will be more permanent, after all, fried goods even in winter will still sell well. Just right now he based on cost and customer flow considerations, can only start from this kind of mobile first. That's right now Xiao Chuxing is still the most lack of cash. He needs to use the snowball-like way, let the hand of cash continue to roll into a more huge cash flow. Because in a primitive capital accumulation stage, so must be absolutely will not lose business. So this stage, can only be catering. And the boss tug of war for half a day, and ultimately so a small car, was Xiao Chuxing hard to cut off the small half of the price. Boss, that is a face of meat pain phase, Xiao Chuxing cheerfully laughed. Boss, you think so? I'm doing business like this, may have to engage in a few in the future? The boss looked at the people he brought, really pondered the problem. Indeed, as Xiao Chuxing said, he can see, this young man counts very bold, and this kind of business are very bitter, young people are generally not willing to do. But Xiao Chuxing is willing to eat this bitter, this kind of people business is definitely bigger and bigger. Thinking about it this way, Xiao Chuxing, the dog thing of the big cake really gave the boss to draw a letter. What kind of business are you going to do again? Lin Shi curiously asked. The first to do chicken fried steak, and then see the situation to see whether to add other fried goods category. Xiao Chuxing explained, this is just a transition, the long-term look will certainly have to pack the store to do. Of course, this is also a big cake, Hangzhou's housing prices are expensive, naturally, the package under the shop store will not be cheap. For the current Xiao Chuxing, package store to do is really not worth it. However, Hangzhou is so big, fried chicken cutlet this kind of thing and there is nothing too advanced technical threshold, so he plans if the business can be, then get a few more mobile car. Those who have a large flow of parks, attractions, school business all occupied, even if only sold 2 months, this income is also extremely considerable. After all, before the rise of the takeaway industry, or the world of the ground economy. Chapter 53 Cheat finished money on the run. In fact, Xiao Chuxing would prefer to go as the way of Jingxing chicken fillet, although to the back of this market will gradually tepid. But how dull, play big is also tens of billions of dollars in the market. Of course, he does not feel that he can now compete with Jingxing, which has already been precipitated. But simply grab a little market share, enough. In Xiao Chuxing's memory, 07 has begun to have the shadow of Jingxing, only this brand has just begun. Really wait until he began to fire, but also many years, after all, a brand really play the market, have to open the store all over the country streets, even 18 lines of townships of a street are not spared. But eat a bite to bite, do business is also, to be gradual. Jingxing brand can open the market so quickly, relying on more than just the magic of the advertisement and his not bad taste. More still, the capital behind him. This is precisely Xiao Chuxing's disadvantage at the moment, he is a person, from the word capital is still 100,000 miles away. So he intends to find another way, first use the mobile food truck to occupy the city of Hangzhou stall's economy, hit the word of mouth. Then this is a warping board, when his capital is available and then turned into a store, began to radiate to the surrounding areas. He didn't plan to go nationwide, because that was unrealistic. Strong as the previous generation of Zhang to achieve the whole country rely on the form of franchise. And something like chicken fillet had no technical barriers at all, and it was very easy to replicate it. Once someone makes money, there will be a variety of chicken cutlet stores, brands. But in the end to stay, there must be only so many. So instead of thinking about the national market, it is better to plow in a small area. This thing it will always be someone to eat, even after 10 years. Xiao Chuxing plans to engage in a brand, first fishing turnover. And then wait for those so-called investment companies to find the door, financing our acquisition or whatever, he cheated the money on the run. After all, his goal is not in this above, now these steady business is just to give him to do that big vote of a steady flow of blood. After all, the internet industry that is burned out by money. And catering is the most stable and fast money industry, so he needs to use the catering source for his internet industry to transport funds. Xiao Chuxing's previous life entrepreneurship, in fact, walking is considered half of the internet industry, so he has a very deep understanding of these things. With those cool novels and the internet company came up to clamor to make money differently, this industry is almost any company, the initial period that are spending money like water. Even up to several years and even more than 10 years are in the long-term loss, make money? Want to fart, eat it? But the question is, since everyone is losing money, where does the money come from? In fact, it is the capital game. Competition between capital, burning money to open the market, and then set off the table, the retail investors who cannot afford to play kicked out. And then cut leaks, the stock market, financing, users, there is always a place to subsidize those losses in the early stages. This is called the winner takes all. And Xiao Chusheng now is to do this winner. Come to all come, this time there are Qinbin these hard labor, Xiao Chusheng by the way to the evening stall with the ingredients also bought. The ingredients in the morning were fresher than at noon, and there was also a selection. When he bought these ingredients, he also bought some vegetables along the way. Xiao Chusheng and the three of them went back first, while Chenbin had those few juniors transport the food carts they bought back. Taking advantage of the fact that he didn't have to go to class for the whole day, Xiao Chusheng decided to go back to Chi Sancho's side to finish frying those crayfish in one go. This time, he brought Chenbin into Chi Sancho's home, and his eyes went straight when he saw the magnificent decoration. Where had Chenbin, who came from a poor family, seen this? Xiao Chusheng smiled, envious? Chenbin honestly nodded, but I certainly have no hope in this life. For Chenbin such an answer, Xiao Chusheng always shocking, yes, you are very self-aware. A sentence to Chenbin made to laugh and cry, not the boss, you cannot give me a big cake? Let me happy also into awe. Xiao Chusheng laughed, is it think I want to be like those capitalists, tell you that as long as you work hard, you will have sooner or later? Being told what was on his mind, Chenbin was embarrassed and touched his nose. This young man in fact not so much heart and soul, otherwise it will not be lost. Saying those false is meaningless, their own to hand is true. Xiao Chusheng gazed deep, looking at Chenbin said, some things are not destined to their own, but some of them can be seized. Chenbin pondered. Xiao Chusheng point to point, in fact, he is in the point of Chenbin, told him that some things can take, some things cannot take. As long as he was smart enough, then he could get more. Chenbin might not be considered particularly capable, but he was definitely a smart enough person. Using the chicken breast that he had bought, as well as some seasonings, Xiao Chusheng gave Chenbin a demonstration. He himself is not very good at it, so the frying is not too good, well, the appearance is a bit poor. The flavor was good, and Xiao Chusheng thought it was much better than Jingxin. This is normal, Jingxin that said is mainly to facilitate to ensure the average level of each store, and then consider the cost. He is not like Xiao Chusheng so as to use the best material to do, there must be a gap. In short, the process is such a process, I leave this to you to do, the fire, the flavor of you in the process of selling gradually give me a set of accurate data out. For example, how much oil temperature, how long to fry, the batter breadcrumbs wrapped into roughly what degree of seasoning accurate to the number of grams. Xiao Chusheng pointed out Chenbin, Chenbin's brain turned fast, trying to remember Xiao Chusheng's arrangement. Well, that's it, when you get a set of precise data, we will then open the store all over Hangzhou. Chenbin listened to that call of blood boiling, resolutely go back to research and pondering to go. Yummy! A certain fool's mouth couldn't stop, one piece after another, eating the test fried chicken cutlet. For such a foodie, he could only helplessly shake his head. After dealing with part of the night's kebabs, the crayfish frozen in Chenbin's house was sent over by someone he found. Xiao Chusheng immediately began to fry, but because the amount was too large, this frying was done until more than 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The entire kitchen was filled with the smell of chili peppers, choking Lin Shi and Chi Sanshan, who both cried red eyes. Xiao Chusheng could not help but mutter, this flavor is too poisonous this to sell a few months this thing, this kitchen in the future is estimated to be all crawfish flavor. Wow, Idiot Beauty subconsciously responded, suddenly tilted his head eyes brightly looking at Xiao Chusheng, I like crayfish. Is this a matter of liking or not liking? Look at the time. All this time Wait for the hood to finish smoking this chili smell, I will fry 2 dishes for you, let us eat lunch. Xiao Chusheng decided to show his hand. Chapter 54 The Era of $5.30 Looking into the Future. You still know how to cook? Lin Shi was surprised for a split second. As a result, she was met with Xiao Chusheng's expression like he was looking at a fool, and he cried and laughed, why would you think that barbecuing doesn't count as cooking? Lin Shi always felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't say. Xiao Chusheng didn't explain too much and washed up the pots, while asking Chi Sansan, the idiot, to go and bring him the rice. My family at least owns a restaurant, that's what my dad taught me, and I've done my own cooking at home for a while in previous years, but it's too time consuming. Only then did Xiao Chusheng explain it to Lin Shi. Lin Shi suddenly realized, no wonder your business is all about food. The two do not seem to have a direct relationship, right? No? Xiao Chusheng was stunned. In fact, it couldn't be said that there wasn't anything at all. After all, if he didn't love food, he probably wouldn't think about it so much. Well, a restaurant tycoon who doesn't intend to enter the internet world is not a good cook. How long has this rice been put in? Xiao Chusheng rubbed the rice that Chi Sanso had found. It was obviously stale rice, and it was at least 2 years old or more. It's a miracle that it hasn't been sealed and hasn't been infested with worms. Forget it, stale rice isn't a problem, and our mouths aren't that tricky. Xiao Chusheng took 3 small bowls, each bowl put a handful of rice, but subconsciously looked at the idiot beauty, so he silently changed one of the bowls into a large rice-water ratio of 1:3, directly on the pot steaming 20 minutes. Less people are still unlikely to eat next time. This method is better than the rice cooker. In his previous life, Xiao Chusheng and Lin Shi often ate for 2 people, and this is how they did it. When he bought the mutton, he cut some pork along the way and paired it with some mushrooms from the evening stall. Very homemade frying method, and then get some lamb to get some onions directly onion explosion mutton. Then with the fried not long ago crayfish, simple 3 dishes are ready. Poked a finger of rice, Xiao Chusheng tasted, okay, rice although Chen, but nothing bad taste, open to eat. So the 3 sat down and began to eat. Lin Shi ate slowly and methodically, and that idiot is eating and stuffing, completely without a goddess look. If you let the gang of boys in the school to see her this look of a big grin, maybe the goddess filter will have to be shattered a place. Don't say it, your craftsmanship is really not bad. Lin Shi made a comment, the family is worthy of having a restaurant. After eating and drinking, most of those fried crayfish were frozen, and the remaining ones to be sold were put outside. Simply prepared the ingredients for the night, Xiao Chusheng took a nap on the sofa. Today's Saturday, the flow of customers must be greater than usual, can foresee my legs have to stand until trembling. Xiao Chusheng think of a headache. To the time they were ready to go out, Chen Bin actually brought people to come early. This guy to help Xiao Chusheng they send the barbecue car over, can see that Chen Bin that is very much want to progress. Of course, the main thing is still Xiao Chusheng can let him see hope, money is really willing to give him to earn. When Xiao Chusheng waited to send oysters, and then go over to the park, has been full of people. After all, it is Saturday, there are a lot of vacation students, there are also a lot of do not have to go to work for the working class small couples. These days, people don't have much means of entertainment, so shopping is still a common pastime on vacation. Come to think of it, in 2007, the main means of entertainment was still on the computer online games, Warcraft, Legends, and the like. If he remembers correctly, this time even the national service of poisonous milk powder has not been Penguin Online. He was living again, looking up to the future will only be more trance, and even have a kind of illusion that his past life may just be a dream. In this era of $5.30 megabytes of traffic to play for a month and even have leftovers, who dares to imagine the world 10 years, 20 years later? It was simply heavenly. But this time, Xiao Chusheng has come, and this side of the world will inevitably have a figure of his greatness. As Xiao Chusheng expected, Saturday's business was not a bit better than usual. The day was still bright when there were already non-stop customers. He was worried that the ingredients he prepared would not be enough to last until 9 o'clock. If only we could have such good business every day. Lin Shi lamented. Xiao Chusheng laughed and said, although we have earned money, we have also wasted our time. Well, that's true. This kind of business is frankly to use brute force for money, and then use the money to cure the disease. Dry decades, in fact, are returned. Ultimately not long. Take over for a while, I'll go check on chicken fillet. Good. Xiao Chusheng came to Chen Bin's side of the stall, just quietly watching. I have to say, after their afternoon of research, at least there is no problem with the appearance of the sale, more reliable than his morning to get those 2 pieces. Boss, do you want to try? Chen Bin saw Xiao Chusheng come, and asked busily. Well, come a piece, I taste. Xiao Chusheng tried, the flavor can pass, and even a little better than his impression of Zhang Xin. It feels like it can also be improved under the crunchy skin, a little hard. Xiao Chusheng commented after thinking about it. Yes, we are still studying the proportion of hanging paste. Chen Bin explained. Xiao Chusheng listened, but in fact his mind was searching for another thing. He tasted the chicken fillet flavor was indeed okay, but he always felt that something was missing. Zhengxin's path was a bundled sales model of chicken fillets with drinks, because just eating fried chicken fillets would definitely get tired of it, so usually their stores would pair it with sour plum soup. Only this is most of the stores. There are some small franchised stores that can't manage it that get replaced with cheap orange powdered water to save costs. So in fact in the past life many people just threw away their drinks, including sour plum soup which not everyone liked. In a $10 or $12 chicken cutlet, most people are actually equal to paying for the drink for nothing and getting nothing. This belonged to a kind of waste. So Xiao Chusheng was pondering whether he could mess it up from this point. There it was. Xiao Chusheng had a flash of light in his mind and came up with a plan. He decided to rent a Coke machine. Coke was basically a drink that the vast majority of people could accept. And he was going to sell it with chicken fillets. You cannot want it, but only give it $1 cheaper. However, how much does a cup of Coke machine cost for a cup of Coke? $1 a cup of Coke. Many people will choose to spend this extra money. In his previous life, Xiao Chusheng formed a company for the company's employee benefits. From the Coca-Cola company rented a Coke machine, after paying a deposit to call people to load on it. This kind of mobile car although some trouble, but can be solved with a vat of drinking water. Made up his mind, he decided to grab the arrangement on. Oh, I almost forgot, but also on vacation at people's companies are on vacation on weekends. These days foreign companies compared to the employment environment to be a lot easier, otherwise there will not be so many people crowded to go. However, in addition to these, there are actually pain points. Xiao Chusheng thought of the key point in his previous life when the Jingxing market was squeezed. Chapter 55. She's just naturally dull, not really stupid. Jingxing had a strong momentum of development in the midterm, relying on franchising to open up all over the country. But after a few years of rapid development period then entered a period of weakness. The root cause of this is that fried food is delicious, but ultimately belongs to the unhealthy eating habits. Then there is another point, is his family's category is too single. So in order to change this impasse, they launched a variety of fried skewers, as well as cheap fried food. But in the end, they still have not jumped out of the fried food unhealthy. This must die. In fact, this bureau cannot be broken at all. But have to admit that, although unhealthy, but just crave Another reason for the compression of the market and a variety of fried chicken popped up, Jingxing's eating style is too single. For example, the popular Korean-style fried chicken coated in flour and sauce is the one that has taken away the most market share. People still favor that kind of sauce as more adequate in sweet food, or sweet and sour pork. Sweet and sour pork, Kung Pao chicken will not become a nationally known 3 dishes. Right, this is the breakthrough. Xiao Chusheng finally caught the breakthrough point. The pain point of this industry is simply unsolvable, but he can solve the pain point of his own products. In Xiao Chusheng's case, he does not need to consider the profit margin, which itself is running to make money to subsidize the internet industry. As for what to do behind? This is good to say, wait to do a big financing to the hand on the high cash to run away chant. Capitalist routine operation. However, in fact, there is no need, although the industry will always be squeezed market, but the money will certainly have to earn. Even if it is just thrown there to eat the old capital, eat to 30 years is not much pressure. Well, to be my research, in 2 days I will give you a new set of programs. Chicken fillet you continue to study, then together. Xiao Chusheng instructed Chin Bin. He intends to first look at such a mobile deep fryer truck. A day sales can be how much, this is the key. Back to the barbecue stall, Lin Sure was sweating profusely as she grilled oysters. This thing is a real bestseller sure enough, aphrodisiacs are pulling all the stops for the country. Not only men like it, even women like it after all, men aphrodisiacs, the ultimate enjoyment is still on the side of the woman. This logic is not wrong, because for men, in fact, the cool is so shivering. As for the virtual or not, in fact, there is no difference. The real need to experience the sense or in the female side. So there is a very interesting phenomenon, pulling middle-aged people to the stall to eat oysters. A lot of them are in the age of the wolf like tiger middle-aged women. Well, crawfish sell so fast? The bucket of crayfish that I brought is almost at the bottom, and there are at least 30 pounds in the bucket. The company's business is a very good one, and the company's business is a very good one. Lin Sure wiped sweat while lamenting. The spicier it is, the more you want to eat it. It's normal, this is the charm of crawfish. Only. The dog man narrowed his eyes as he realized that it was the idiot beauty who was collecting the money. Xiao Chusheng somewhat suspiciously pointed at the idiot beauty and asked Lin Sure, is it really okay for you to let her collect the money? Lin Sure couldn't help but roll her eyes. Cedar is just naturally dumb, it's not like she's really stupid, you're prejudiced against her, okay? TSK. Speechless. He watched from the side for a while and realized that this idiot really didn't find the wrong money, and he was relieved. The era when cash was still used was like this: it was troublesome and there was the problem of counterfeit bills. Unlike later generations of two-dimensional code payment popularization, go out with a cell phone on the end, but also eliminated the problem of counterfeit money and pickpockets. If possible, Xiao Chuxing even wanted to cut off the fortune of Alipay. Just think a little tough. After all, Ali behind Alipay is considered capital, now he is equal to overrate. Think long term. Okay, I go back and get a bucket of crayfish back, first hard work. Xiao Chuxing had no choice but to continue to trouble Lin Shi. Lin Shi, on the other hand, didn't mind at all. As she said, this bit of intensity was nothing compared to the work she had done before. When he went back to get the crayfish, he packed 3 portions of rice on the way. Barbecue this thing bar if occasionally eat okay, but their own stalls own every day to eat, that is really will get tired. However, a certain stupid beauty has no such tendency at all, it is very invincible. On today's stall so a while, the guy himself first killed 10 strings of mutton, but also smoothed a few oysters. And just as Xiao Chuxing went back with the packed rice and crayfish, there was an acquaintance of Xiao Chuxing who had quietly arrived at the battlefield. Jai, I heard that the garlic roasted oysters here is particularly hot, and women eat it also beauty. Look at you, the face of the past few days is so bad, eat some makeup. This person is Zheng Jia's best friend, Xinjing. She and Zheng Jia did not enter the same school. Between the two people almost nothing to say, naturally, also includes the matter of Xiao Chuxing. It can be said that Xiao Chuxing confessed so many times were rejected by Zheng Jia, which has Xinjing's handiwork. It was she who variously instilled in Zheng Jia the idea that men don't cherish men when they get them, so she wanted Xiao Chuxing to confess a few more times so that he would treat the relationship well after he chased it. It's not easy to comment on this kind of thing, right? You have to say whether there is any truth, but cannot say no, but then cannot say that there is not a little bit of a big disease. See their girlfriends or a disheveled look. Xinjing, a tone of hate for steel, stomped his foot. Is not a man? You are so beautiful, he does not want you, that is his loss, should be regretted, is he right? But he. Zheng Jia voice her some crying, he and she Sanchuan together. The high-caliber girl in your school? Xinjing had heard of it, but she didn't really believe it. Are you sure? Xiao Chuxing doesn't seem to be that good, right? Can he pick up the schoolgirl? Zheng Jia shook her head, she didn't know, and Xiao Chuxing hadn't told her anything specific. However, she did see Xiao Chuxing and Shi Sanshuang act intimately with her own eyes, which made her unable to disbelieve. Even if he picked up the schoolgirl, so what? Xinjing, a tone of disbelief, cold snort, the student era of love which there are a few pairs can go to the end, the university school flower to see a better boy, maybe dumped him. You don't have to feel so bad about yourself, Xiao Chuxing, such a boy is very common, you can definitely meet a better one in college. Xinjing touched Zheng Jia's head, good ha, immediately to us, I have long wanted to come to eat, it is not easy to wait until the vacation. Zheng Jia subconsciously looked in the direction of the stall, and saw that it was Lin Shi's clean and beautiful face that was foul. It was like a fairy that had fallen from the mortal world. Zheng Jia only felt ashamed of herself in front of her. So she subconsciously lowered her head, not daring to look again. Just what she didn't notice was that it just so happened that Xiao Chuxing, the dogman, came back and took over the work in Lin Shi's hand. Chapter 56. Dear, open your mouth, It's almost time for us. Xinjing was pleasantly surprised and turned her head to continue talking to Zheng Jia about this barbecue. I heard that the owner's wife here is especially beautiful, and some people call her the kebab shih tzu. Zheng Jia lowered her head, her mind filled with that amazing glimpse just now. She muttered in a low voice, well, it's pretty. In fact, she didn't want to admit it, but she had to admit that the woman she just saw was far from being comparable to her. Moreover, she felt that the other party was actually prettier than Shi Sansho. This kind of beauty was intellectual, something that could only be possessed by maturity, while they were all still just a bunch of ungrown girls. And it wasn't that Zheng Jia was overthinking it, it was mainly because Lin Shi had been working part-time since the summer vacation since she graduated from her senior year of high school, and had seen a lot of things and met a lot of people. After seeing a lot of things, people naturally looked much older. At least among her peers, Lin Shi felt like a sensible older sister, not to mention a student like Zheng Jia who hadn't been beaten by society. Boss, bring us 20 oysters. Through the window and the smoke from the roast lamb kebabs, Xinjing hadn't noticed that the boss in front of them was none other than Xiao Chuxing. Xiao Chuxing didn't bother to look at them either, he had a lot of work in his hands. Until he heard the other side ask the girl next to him, Jai, what else do you want to eat? Jia, eh? Xiao Chusheng heard this name subconsciously also froze, frowned, and raised his head to look over. For eyes double pair, Zhang Jia saw the face of this culprit who made her annoyed all these days. She was also confused. Zhang Jia first time actually a little flustered, but quickly reacted again. Chusheng. The sudden excitement of her own best friend made Xinjing also react. She had looked familiar to Xiao Chusheng when she ordered something just now, but she hadn't even thought about it that way. After all, who would have thought that Xiao Chusheng, a student, would run this kind of place to set up a stall? And also set up a stall that was bursting with fire. Xiao Chusheng? Why are you here? Reacting to this, Xinjing immediately became angry because it was Xiao Chusheng who had caused Zheng Jia to be absent-minded today. Xiao Chusheng coldly swept a glance at Xinjing. In his previous life he had never had a good impression of Xinjing. When he had confessed to Zheng Jia so many times before succeeding, this matter had Xinjing's handiwork. Later, after the two of them got together, they quarreled and had conflicts on a regular basis, which also had Xinjing's handiwork. This guy is more or less the attribute of a toxic bosom friend, instilling some negative emotions in Zhang Jia. Especially when she just graduated from college, society was in a very turbulent period in those years, and it was easy to be anxious. Especially when Zhang Jia graduated from college, the College of International Business and Economics at that time had just completed its name change and was only a second-year college. So she encountered the problem that most college students would face in those days: employment. There were no jobs at all, and she didn't want to go into the service industry. So she was in Shanghai for a long time to submit resumes everywhere, but all were rejected. It can be said that at that time is basically Xiao Chusheng in support of her. In order to change the situation, Xiao Chusheng went to entrepreneurship. Zhang Jia is to remain the same, and Xiao Chusheng does not have the extra energy to maintain this kind of relationship with her. Xinjing incited Zhang Jia, behind the back of the disparagement of Xiao Chusheng many times. Nothing more than those: entrepreneurship 10 deaths, Xiao Chusheng at 2 graduate college students, how can entrepreneurship success, and so on. With the brainwashing, so gradually Zhang Jia mentality changed, and Xiao Chusheng unreasonable times become more and more. Between the two people, between the chicken and garlic, small quarrels also become more and more. It can be said that the relationship with Zhang Jia to that kind of ending. A variety of factors. Certainly Xinjing, this poisonous bosom friend, is a tumor, but Zhang Jia himself is not so easy to listen to the words of Xinjing, not to. Xiao Chusheng also reminded Zhang Jia less with Xinjing to deal with, because Xinjing workplaces Xiao Chusheng often talk about business to go to a nightclub. He heard a lot of bad rumors about her, but for this Zhang Jia quarreled with him twice. Since then, he did not mention it again. Now see Xinjing, Xiao Chusheng is really nothing good face, but also just coldly asked, still eat or not? If you don't eat, get out of the way, other guests are still waiting. Xinjing saw Xiao Chusheng's reaction, his face also became a little stiff. How do you do this? Wei Jia. Eat or not? Do not eat roll. Xiao Chusheng is really lazy with this guy nonsense. To Zhang Jia he may at most just do not want to be involved again. But to Xinjing? Oh. Xinjing was Xiao Chusheng a roll word, scolded, confused, reacted to want to talk back. But someone has blocked in front of her. It is Chen Bin stayed on this side of the two little brother. The two men pulled and dragged Xinjing directly to the side. The two dyed red hair and yellow hair mental boys, this year to student girls, can be said to be quite bluffing. Xinjing's voice trembled, very fearful. You, what do you want? Zhang Jia also chased over, completely not making sense of the current situation. This place is not your turn to be wild, dare to make trouble to your legs broken. The two mental boys directly threatened them. The intimidation from the social youths instantly told Xinjing to shut up and didn't dare to say anything else. Jing, are you alright? Did they do anything to you? Seeing that the two mental boys had left, Zhang Jia hurried over to ask Xinjing about her condition. Xinjing was so scared that her legs went weak and she sat down on the ground. What do they mean? I'm talking to Xiao Chusheng, what's it got to do with them? Zhang Jia's eyes flickered as she looked in Xiao Chusheng's direction and thought. Jing, you wait. After saying that, Zhang Jia carefully came to the side of Xiao Chusheng's barbecue stand. She wanted to ask Xiao Chusheng why he had set up a stall here, the stall Su Hai had mentioned that day. Was it this? But what she was most concerned about was still the woman who had just made her ashamed of herself. She was curious to know, what was the relationship between that woman and Xiao Chusheng? So she silently leaned over and saw that Xiao Chusheng was concentrating on grilling 2 large skewers of lamb and was spraying water on the meat. In fact, Xiao Chusheng had already noticed her, but just pretended not to see. Lin Shi was eating the rice that Xiao Chusheng had brought over, and she had actually watched the whole scene just now. She just wasn't sure what was going on with Xiao Chusheng and the girl who was dragged away. What deep hatred was there that Xiao Chusheng would directly tell someone to get lost? The one with that guy just now is a girl I used to chase after. Xiao Chusheng muttered to Lin Shi in a low voice. He used the words chased before because at this time it was a fait accompli. But Lin Shi was keenly aware that things shouldn't be that simple. But she didn't point it out. Instead, the corner of her mouth hooked, and she used a spoon to send a spoonful of covered rice to Xiao Chusheng's mouth, and ventriloquized, "Dear, open your mouth, ah." Chapter 57 Swearing Sovereignty to his ex. Xiao Chusheng's mouth twitched. To his understanding of Lin Shi, this guy is acting on. What is this called? What is this? Swearing sovereignty to his ex? But Xiao Chusheng was also happy to do so, since he knew that it was impossible to get involved again. It would be better to let her get rid of her thoughts before it was too late. So he opened his mouth and let Lin Shi feed him. Do you want to eat something else? Lin Shi acted in a whiny manner. It caused Xiao Chusheng to unconsciously get goosebumps. This woman nah. However, he still nodded his head, so these two people directly showed their love in front of so many people. Xiao Chusheng was in charge of selling things, and Lin Shi fed him, and from time to time Lin Shi even took a bite herself. Completely not caring if this was considered indirect kissing or something like that. Yo, the boss's wife and the boss are in love. You guys are already married, right? Some diners who had been here several times couldn't help but tease them when they saw this scene. Lin Shi put on a shy look and slapped Xiao Chusheng hard on his arm twice. But to the onlookers, this was clearly flirting. Naturally, this scene was also caught in the eyes of Zheng Jie, who was hidden not far away. She was breathing heavily, and had an incredulous expression on her face, as if the sky was about to collapse. As a matter of fact, for the current Zheng Jie, the sky had indeed collapsed. She felt that there were many things that were no longer under her control, and this feeling was very mysterious. This guy Xiao Chusheng finished the last mouthful of covered rice, not knowing what to her point. This guy, he is purely posing for Zheng Jie to see. Lin Shi pretended to be an innocent look. What's wrong? You don't still have thoughts about her, do you? Xiao Chusheng decisively denied this, so he shook his head. That definitely won't be. I have you, how can I still have thoughts about her? Lin Shi thought about it against her chin, and then looked at the idiot beauty who was chewing like a hamster in one side of her mouth constantly. In the end she gave a very agreeable hum. Indeed it's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. Is that how you use the word? Do you want me to do it for you? By the looks of it, that ex of yours seems to want to find you. The corner of Lin Shi's mouth raised. Xiao Chusheng gave her a blank look, but still switched places with her. Indeed, one should properly speak clearly to Zheng Jie, or else this time and time again, it was really meaningless to always go on like this. Just as Xiao Chusheng sat to the side and drank a few mouthfuls of water, Zheng Jie timidly stood beside Xiao Chusheng. Xiao Chusheng just indifferently swept a glance at her, but did not say a word. At times like this, whoever opened their mouth first lost. And the person who lost was naturally Zheng Jie. She timidly asked Xiao Chusheng, "This woman is my woman." Xiao Chusheng did not even look at her and spat out 3 words in a domineering tone. Zheng Jie pupils earthquake, no hesitation to admit, to Zheng Jie is like a sharp knife, because it means that Xiao Chusheng has already put his heart on others. And she might have missed Xiao Chusheng just because of her so-called tryst. But Zheng Jie still didn't want to end it so unexplained, only to see her squeeze out a smile that was worse than a cry. Is that right, she's fine? But Xiao Chusheng, this dog man backtalk is relentless sentence, with you say? A sentence on Zheng Jie choked to say nothing, because she realized that Xiao Chusheng maybe really no feelings for her. Not only no feelings, even seems to be more of a dislike, exaggerate some say, already counted on the disgust. Zheng Jie heart feel very aggrieved, she obviously did not do anything. Eyes are uncontrollably red, as if the next second to cry out. No love is true. The previous life of Xiao Chusheng and Zheng Jie experienced so long together, is again have feelings, but also has long been worn out by life. Even hot couples have the saying of 4 months burnout period, even married couples, there is still the 7-year itch. And Xiao Chusheng and Zheng Jie? This character, values and so on is not suitable, can be so reluctant to be together for so long has been considered very rare. More, in fact, should be called sunk costs. Oh no, silent cost that is based on the premise that there is no better choice. Xiao Chusheng has Lin Shi, if you have to say, the silent cost is actually only Zheng Jie's side. Zheng Jie's own conditions are just average, the face is considered exquisite good looking, but with all the recognized beauty or a lot of difference. Besides the family conditions, schooling, Zheng Jie are not. To put it bluntly, she is actually very ordinary. And Xiao Chusheng entrepreneurship once can succeed, she is even the so-called sparrow into a phoenix. This is an ordinary girl like her, absolutely no possibility to rely on their own realized, so despite the previous life Xiao Chusheng was very down and out. But she did not leave, for one thing is to want to bet, two, there is another reason is that Xiao Chusheng for her to bear the high cost of living in such places as Shanghai. And she, just quietly enjoy it is good, do not need to take the pressure, also do not need to follow Xiao Chusheng exhausted, because the pressure are in Xiao Chusheng body. As for the back, Xiao Chusheng's career has not been up, she sort of gave up, and returned to her hometown. After that, the contact between the two people is less and less. Until Xiao Chusheng returned back to life. What about Qi Sansho? Zhang Jia finally asked, aren't you with Qi Sanshuang? Xiao Chusheng subconsciously raised his head and looked towards the idiot beauty. Then he met the confused little eyes of the idiot beauty, who was clumsily peeling the crayfish. At her hand, the shrimp shells piled up into a small mountain. This guy's mouth is especially broken, stealing one in a while, she alone has eaten 2 pounds of crayfish. Following Xiao Chusheng's gaze, Zhang Jia was petrified. Why is she also here? Because a certain stupid beauty only cared about burying her head in food the entire time, and Zhang Jia's mind was all on Xiao Chusheng, so naturally she didn't notice her. At the moment, Zhang Jia's mind was buzzing and she couldn't figure out the current situation at all. What exactly was the relationship between the three of them? Qi Sanshan saw Xiao Chusheng and that woman so close, but actually did not react at all? Zhang Jia's mind was cluttered. Xiao Chusheng just glanced at her. She you and her? What the hell is going on? Zhang Jia had almost shouted out these words hysterically. What does it have to do with you? Xiao Chusheng asked back relentlessly. Zhang Jia couldn't say anything, because just as Xiao Chusheng said, what does it have to do with her? It wasn't like she and Xiao Chusheng were together, so what position did she have to ask this? It was clearly her who had rejected Xiao Chusheng so many times. Leave if you are fine, don't disturb our business. Xiao Chusheng said nonchalantly, you are redundant here. Sentence by sentence, as if a knife stuck in Zhang Jia's heart. Chapter 58 Ruthless Engaging Money Juicer. Water mist covered Zhang Jia's eyes, but Xiao Chusheng was blind to it. In her previous life, after the two of them had an argument, she was always like this, as if Xiao Chusheng was the one at fault. Xiao Chusheng at first will also be heartbroken, she felt that the girl, there may always be some time emotionally unstable. But gradually, this situation more and more, he will be immune. So now Xiao Chusheng saw this look of Zhang Jia again, can be said to be not at all moved, and even want to laugh. Lin Shi gave her a deep look and didn't say anything else. No matter what happened, Lin Shi was Xiao Chusheng's person. Zhang Jia just stayed there for a long time, only to realize that there really wasn't a single person paying attention to her. Even Qi Sansho, who hadn't even glanced at her, as if she hadn't noticed her. In fact, the idiot beauty really didn't notice her, the guy was totally focused on eating. Who let her be just a mordant emotional eater? Probably feeling like she was making a fool of herself, Zhang Jia silently withdrew from the crowd and returned to where Xinjing was. Xinjing was so angry that her eyes were red, but she didn't dare to show any emotion, because those two spirited guys still looked at her from time to time. As long as she still dared to come over, the two would dare to shout at her. Although Xiao Chusheng, the big boss, had instructed them that it was not the time for fighting in the future. But this is someone else wants to mess up, fight back, that's no problem. The main fight on a bottom line can be flexible and changeable. Seeing his girlfriend back, Xinjing gritted his teeth and asked what the hell is going on. Zhang Jia whole person lost his soul, just shaking his head, mouth is unable to make a sound. Xinjing also knows that Zhang Jia is afraid to accept the status quo in front of her, temporary waste. So she can only voice comfort, Jia, don't be sad, he Xiao Chusheng ran to open this kind of stall, doesn't it mean that he has been rotten? Now it's just a matter of sticking his head in this kind of place, what kind of future can there be? By then you'll be people of two worlds. This is what people generally think in this era, and even the vast majority of students think this way. Whether they were good students, poor students, or ordinary students, they all thought the same. They felt that even a second, third, or even a pheasant university was considered a human being. Although this philosophy was a bit sad, this was the truth back then, especially the more closed the information the more so. Even Zhang Jia herself thought the same way, but her thoughts were different from Xinjing. What she was thinking was that Xiao Chusheng, however, had his heart set on this kind of place, shouldn't she stop Xiao Chusheng so that he didn't misuse his own future? Wasting time. Unbeknownst to her, if she really did that, Xiao Chusheng could go from not wanting to be involved with her anymore to a blood feud, immortal. After all, take away people's money is like killing parents. 1 year, in the golden age of 1 year, this is with the killing of 10 times the parents has not much difference. Of course, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but this year is indeed such a special year, and even the future of the country's fate is doomed in this year. Go. Although Xinjing did not dare to cause trouble, but her heart is still not convinced, she just cannot get used to Xiao Chusheng. There is no reason to look at it, sometimes it is like this, some loathing just does not make sense. When those two spiritual guys saw Xinjing tugging Zhang Jiayi to come over again, they immediately stopped over. What are you guys doing? Can't we even eat? Or do you guys not want to do our business? Xinjing's voice cringed, but her mouth was still hard. The two spiritual boys looked at each other, so they didn't say anything else, but they still stared at these two vigilantly. Their job, to put it bluntly, was to watch over the scene, so that no one here dared to make trouble. It was really nothing if the two girls were just eating. Xinjing pulled Zhang Jiayi and quickly lined up the girls. This time Xiao Chusheng saw these two again, his face changed, just wanted to coax away, but heard Xinjing say, "We can't even eat?" This caused Xiao Chusheng to be stunned as well, but then he reacted that their appearance here should just be a coincidence. Now that his stall was so famous, it was normal for admirers to come here. So he was very impatient and asked, "What to eat?" "Money does not earn, son of a bitch, anyway, it is into my pocket." Xiao Chusheng will not be stupid enough to drive people away, first make a profit. Xinjing ordered a bunch of things in one breath, and ordered more than 20 oysters. Xiao Chusheng counted the money, a total of 80. "Our Jia Yi is here, this meal you should not invite?" Xinjing said shamelessly. This makes Xiao Chusheng immediately happy. This Xinjing was quite able to take advantage of the previous life. Now that he and Zhang Jiayi weren't even together, she actually had the face to say this? So he sneered nonchalantly, "Invite you guys? Where did you get the face?" Visible to the naked eye, Zhang Jiayi's face became pale as she realized that Xiao Chusheng had truly put her down completely. Because once upon a time, Xiao Chusheng would never use this tone of voice and say such words to her. Xinjing's face likewise became ugly, and even used the tone of gnashing teeth. "Xiao Chusheng, don't you want to chase after our Jiayi anymore?" Puff. Lin Shi on the side didn't hold back and laughed out loud, making Xinjing's face green and purple. Xiao Chusheng actually wanted to laugh as well, only to be preempted by Lin Shi. So he directly tore his face, his tone disdainful. "She didn't tell you? Or are you playing dumb? Chasing her? Is it you or is she in a dream? If you like to eat, do not eat roll, do not pestle here in the way, we have to do business. If you want to eat, go away, don't let me call someone to kick you out." This is tantamount to humiliation, so that the face of these two people read. Xinjing was so angry that she wanted to lift Xiao Chusheng's stall, but she did not dare. Wimpy and weird, toxic girlfriends are like that. Then there's always no problem with a discount, right? Jia Yi is at least your classmate. Xinjing seems to want to get back in the city. Xiao Chusheng just wanted to say discount? How about I give you a discount on your legs? But suddenly he thought of something, suddenly smiled. Discount? Okay, 80, you give $79.50. The friendship of classmates is only worth 50 cents? This discount is not as good as not playing it, after playing it is even more insulting. Xinjing was so angry that he found $80 from his body and threw it to Xiao Chusheng. No need to look for it. Xiao Chusheng cheerfully, completely unconcerned, "Give money on the line, I am now mercilessly engaged in money juicer." Xinjing pulled Zhang Jiayi to sit down, and to go in the direction of Qi Sugi, that stupid beauty there. But Zhang Jiayi subconsciously clutched Xinjing's arm, do not know why. In the face of Qi Sanchuan, she always have a kind of indescribable sense of fear. It was like a mouse seeing a cat. Obviously the other party had never even looked at her squarely. In fact, it wasn't that she hadn't looked at her squarely, it was that she hadn't even looked at her. In the eyes of the idiot beauty, she only cared about what she cared about, the rest? All are floating clouds. Ah! Suddenly, the idiot beauty issued a painful scream. Chapter 59. More like a couple with a daughter. The idiot beauty of this sound to Xiao Chusheng and Lin Shi are startled. Xiao Chusheng put the hands of the work to Lin Shi. "There, you watch, I look at what is going on." Lin Shi wanted to go over, but Xiao Chusheng said so she had to stay here. When Xiao Chusheng went over, he realized that the idiot beauty was shedding tears, and the whole person had a pitiful look. What's wrong? Xiao Chusheng was puzzled. He sized up this fool, she didn't seem to be doing anything. The stupid beauty said while crying, spicy to the eyes. Xiao Chusheng was relieved. This guy did not pay attention, used the hand that finished eating crayfish to touch the corner of his eyes, and then he was spicy to the tears. Well, she was kinda stupid. Although this is something that the vast majority of people have probably done. How can you be so careless? Xiao Chusheng cupped her small face that was so pretty that it was foul, a bit of spring heart was budding. Blow her eyes, although it is not very useful, but it is more or less. I wore gloves, stupid beauty, sniffling, tears still cannot stop flowing. Disposable gloves, Xiao Chusheng cried and laughed, while blowing her eyes while explaining, this thing is just for hygiene, cannot block the spicy oil because the oil molecules can pass through the gap between the molecules of this plastic. Even if it is not broken, there will always be a little oil to the hand. At least is also 9 years of compulsory schooling. Stupid beauty again, how natural dull can understand, the more you listen to the more aggrieved. Xiao Chusheng took a bottle of mineral water, rinsed her eyes, which made her eyes feel better. But still red, even a little swollen, spicy as pain, no problem. More than this, Xiao Chusheng is actually more curious. She ate so much spicy crayfish, go back really won't the juju part of the fire? Don't think too much, he is really just simply curious. It doesn't hurt, does it? Xiao Chusheng's voice was unconsciously gentle for a few minutes, and he couldn't help but touch her face. Well. Stupid beauty obediently responded a few times, but the small eyes are still staring straight at the bucket of crayfish. Not you still eat? Xiao Chu's life was numb. How much did this guy eat today? What bottomless pit is this stomach of hers? Anyway, this guy was fine, so he retreated back and took what was being roasted from Lin Shi's hand. What's wrong? Did you get your eyes spiced up? Lin Shi had just looked at it for half a day and probably guessed what had happened. Well, clumsy, but nothing much. Xiao Chusheng explained with a smile. Lin Shi saw the tenderness in Xiao Chusheng's eyes, as well as the happiness that could not be hidden. I'll go take a look. After saying that, Lin Shi also went over to hold the idiot beauty's small face and took a look, and after realizing that there was indeed nothing serious, she was also relieved. Just like Xiao Chusheng, Lin Shi looked at this guy's pretty face and was also a bit smitten. After all, who doesn't love a pretty girl? Even girls were the same. Of course, she herself was actually pretty, it was just that she couldn't see herself if she didn't look in the mirror. Good girl. Lin Shi touched Chi Sugo's hair. This scene is getting weirder and weirder, it's really like a husband and wife with a large-sized daughter. And all of this just now was seen in the eyes of Zheng Jie and Xin Jing. Zheng Jie's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. At this moment the last trace of luck in her heart had vanished. She finally realized that Xiao Chusheng had nothing to do with her anymore. Only, she couldn't understand and didn't know what was going on between Xiao Chusheng and these two girls. Was he actually in a relationship with Chi Sansho, or that woman? If it was that woman, then what was wrong with him being so close to Chi Sanshuang? Obviously, that woman had fed Xiao Chusheng just now, and the two of them looked like a perfect match. For Zhang Jie now, she simply could not see the whole picture, and would not dare to think that Xiao Chusheng was actually a real beast. He was really stepping on two boats. In Zhang Jie's eyes, Xiao Chusheng is just an ordinary student. An ordinary student to pick up Chi Sanshan, the schoolflower, is already outrageous. How could he pick up a woman like Lin? Sure. Impossible, absolutely impossible. In fact, even in her previous life, Zhang Jie had always subconsciously thought so. She had never paid attention to Xiao Chusheng's career, and only Xiao Chusheng's eyes were filled with her student days. So even if Xiao Chusheng often stayed at the company with Lin Shi for many days during the startup period in his previous life, Zhang Jie didn't suspect that the two had anything. Because in his opinion, Xiao Chusheng was not worthy of a woman like Lin Shi. She was not at all clear about how spirited Xiao Chusheng, who reigned supreme in his career. Xiao Chusheng had given her the most affable side, but had overlooked one point, that women were muqiang many times. A persona of affinity will often only fall short in relationships. That's actually how the term licking dog came about. While Xin Jing is puzzled to ask Zhang Jie what relationship those two girls have with Xiao Chusheng, how are they all so beautiful? Although Xin Jing had heard Zhang Jie talk about Xiao Chusheng and Chi Sansho getting together, she had never seen Chi Sansho. Zhang Jie lowered her eyes, her thumbnail pinched hard on her leg, and she didn't say a word. Xin Jing sensed that she seemed to have asked something she shouldn't have, so she didn't dare to ask any further. Until Lin Shi delivered all those oysters and stuff that the two of them had ordered, Lin Shi also did not say a word. Zhang Jie ate what Xiao Chusheng had baked with his own hands, but it tasted like chewing wax, and it was as if her sense of taste had failed her. It was the heartless Xin Jing who was still commenting, "Don't say, although Xiao Chusheng is not good, this craft is really good, it's not unreasonable for this business to be so good, Xie. How much do you think Xiao Chuxing's stall earns in a day? Zhang Jiayi, as if she did not hear her words, the whole person as a marionette, still stagnant in the mouth to send something. Today's incident was too much of a blow to Zhang Jiayi, and Xinjing opened her mouth and didn't say anything else. The two of them left silently after they finished eating, not daring to cause any more trouble. The whole time Xiao Chusheng did not even look at a glance, but it was Lin Shi who took the initiative to mention, "What is the experience of being looked at by your ex with your current one? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that." Xiao Chusheng's head is covered with a big question mark. What the hell question are you asking? Lin Shi puffed and laughed, just curious. There is no experience, no waves in the heart. Xiao Chusheng said lightly. Then what's wrong with you guys? She did something she was sorry for, so she became an ex? The highly intelligent Lin Shi guessed that the relationship between the girl called Zhang Jiayi and Xiao Chusheng was by no means that simple. She naturally guessed that this relationship would not be now. Instead, these words made Xiao Chusheng's gaze burn straight into her eyes, because she's not a good woman, well, I'm not a good man either. Chapter 60. I don't have divorce here, only widowhood. Xiao Chusheng's eyes never moved away from Lin Shi's face from the beginning to the end, looking at Lin Shi's blushing and burning. For a moment, she seemed to have guessed something. Not a good man, is it because of me? Lin Shi thought so. Associated with her ex, Xiao Chusheng said that the girl was not a good woman. With Xiao Chusheng's shameless character, he wouldn't lie about this kind of thing, much less push the pot. And for him to say that he wasn't a good man, that meant that Xiao Chusheng was actually a person who did something wrong in his relationship. If there was an object for his mistakes, Lin Shi's pretty face reddened. That must be me. Lin Shi took a deep breath and seriously asked Xiao Chusheng, then you and her, there is really no possibility? No need to consider me, oh, the premise of us. This we, referring to who and who, is already self-evident. This asked Xiao Chusheng himself is a little embarrassed, reborn back. He himself did not want to do a left and right, but the world is unpredictable, some things it is not controlled. Since the destiny came, then you have to catch it, otherwise it is disrespectful to God. Even Xiao Chusheng was thinking that he was able to retrace his steps in this world, perhaps to make up for the regret. But when he thought about it, did he have any regrets in his previous life? The answer was no. Although the relationship with Zhang Jiayi was a mess, and what he ended up getting in return was that kind of result. But that doesn't mean that he won't be happy after running into Lin Shi's arms. In the relationship with Zhang Jiayi, the first one to give up was Zhang Jiayi. There was no such thing as who betrayed with who, it was just that she bet her future on Xiao Chusheng and ended up giving up before she could succeed. Then someone else was always there to accompany her and finally pick the peach. So yeah, in his previous life, Xiao Chusheng really didn't have any regrets about this relationship with Zhang Jiayi. His rebirth was by no means for Zhang Jiayi, his ex. Xiao Chusheng's relatives are also, his parents are sound and not very sick, he himself has a career and money. In the future, he also had Lin Shi as a good wife. Such a happy and fulfilling life, where do the regrets come from? In this case, the answer is already obvious. Because the regret is not no, one, is Lin Shi once encounter, Xiao Chusheng met her too late. Secondly, it is the stupid beauty of Qi Sugwan, which is the opportunity for him to be reborn. To put it bluntly, this is the debt that God made her owe to himself. Oh, you ask Xiao Chusheng this God what, kinda superstitious huh? Nonsense, he has been reborn, how can he not be superstitious? Xiao Chusheng's answer is very dry, yes, I have no possibility with her, because some feelings from the beginning is a mistake, in fact, whether it is my to her, or she to me, in fact, are not so like. This on the previous life he and Zhang Jiayi long run for so many years came to the conclusion that 10 years? Actually don't know when Zhang Jiayi has silently withdrawn from his world. After that, Zhang Jiayi did nothing more than symbolically still maintain occasional contact with him. Maybe just to leave a way out for herself? After all, a girl who couldn't make it in Shanghai and was forced to return to her hometown. If she couldn't find a suitable one, she would eventually be reduced to going on blind dates. Xiao Chusheng was certainly an ordinary person before he succeeded, but he was also at least a very good person. Besides, what if he succeeded one day? It was a bit ironic, but that was what most people in this world would think, and what the vast majority of people would do when faced with such a situation. So Xiao Chusheng returned from Rebirth, and to Zhang Jiayi, he didn't hold any grudges. There is no right or wrong in the world of adults, only pros and cons. There is no need, just turn away silently. She will lose a lot of things in this life, the most important of which is Xiao Chusheng. Because in her previous life Zhang Jia's was able to live so comfortably, to a large extent there has always been Xiao Chusheng's help. Just as Xiao Chusheng was despondent, Lin Shi suddenly came out without a clue. It feels good to cheat on your wife, doesn't it? I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but I'm sure it's a good idea. If Xiao Chusheng can't hear the voice of Lin Shi, he is really stupid. Can only say that worthy of being an IQ up to 163 goddess, he in the past life of Lin Shi's that point of shit actually can also be on these messages to guess a 7 or 8. I don't know. Xiao Chusheng's sophistry, I think it is sometimes not said to break up, only called break up, just like, not the Civil Affairs Bureau received a divorce certificate is called divorce. Lin Shi was also stunned by this statement, subconsciously asked, break up this I understand, but how can a divorce be called a divorce without a divorce certificate? There are two words called widowed and disconnected. Xiao Chusheng is a serious nonsense. Directly to Lin Shi dry silence. But she did understand Xiao Chusheng's hints, a place of chicken feathers, a relationship that exists in name only. It was indeed impossible to start over again. Thinking of this, her mood suddenly became extraordinarily relaxed. The darkened Lin Shi goddess looked at Xiao Chusheng with arched eyebrows and said wryly, well, there is no divorce in my place, there is only widowhood. Xiao Chusheng froze for a split second and was instantly happy. Sure enough, it was still this time that Lin Shi had the most spirit. If it was her in her previous life, she would never be able to say this kind of words. Because she had already lost trust in the entire world at that time, and Xiao Chusheng was her whole world. But in fact at that time Lin Shi was very inferior. She categorically did not have the courage to use such domineering words to possess Xiao Chusheng. But in this life, Lin Shi didn't care, she had such a position and such qualifications. Even more so, she had such courage. While the two of them were talking and laughing, suddenly, the idiot beauty pulled on Xiao Chusheng's lapel, giving Xiao Chusheng a big scare. What's wrong? The idiot beauty didn't even squeak and suddenly came out. He was not worried and did not mind if she heard those words just now. After all, whether it can be heard is a problem. Nope. What's gone? Xiao Chusheng at this moment has not realized the seriousness of the problem until. Not I so big a bucket of crayfish it? Where are the lobsters in the bucket? Empty. That is not a single bucket have been eaten by you? Lin Shi was the first to react. Isn't the foodie here this idiot? But when they looked at the small table reserved for the stupid beauty, it seemed that there weren't a lot of shrimp shells piled up, although there were quite a few. But surely it wasn't so much that a bucket of them had been eaten by her. So the question was, where did it go? Both of them looked at Chisugo suspiciously, and saw Chisugo handing over a pile of money. So much? Lin Shi and Xiao Chusheng looked at each other and both saw a look of shock in the other's gaze. The idiot beauty nodded her head repeatedly. After she explained, Xiao Chusheng and Lin Shi finally realized what had happened. Good guy big customer this is?